Oh, say, can you see by the dazzling light with the burning hair at the twilight dancing the bright and bright side to the perilous fight o'er the road of the night was the deadly true. And the light that shines through the most mercy can it really remember that a friend was still there? Oh, children, there's something no better yet wait. For the land of faith and the hope of the brave.
We'll be getting ready for today's opening tips in a final check of the lineup right after this message.
I can down to the straight, hear me move high with his waist. I'd walk a mile for a camel. I'd walk a mile, wouldn't you? I've got a wondering soul, beat up roots with a great big hole. I'd walk a mile for a camel.
This message was strictly for smokers who never tasted a Camel cigarette. Camel smokers, you know what we mean. You other guys, start walking.
Remember this, you let good old look shop, feel shop, be shop, for time to kill. You still have ways to roll. Today, the next cotton customers revolutionized shaving. The cotton smooth edge gave you smoother, closer, and with even more comfort. Hard to believe? Try Gillette Platinum Plus Double Edge Injector Blades in your razor. Find out what it really means to look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp. Platinum Plus, Gillette's best blade. Now the umpires are now meeting at home plate, and here is Chuck Thompson to talk about umpires in lineup.
All right, Jim, we have for the Baltimore Orioles leading off in left field, Don Buford. Batting 2 in center field, Paul Blair. The number 3 hitter, first baseman, Boog Powell. Batting 4, right fielder, Frank Robinson. Batting 5, third baseman, Brooks Robinson. Batting 6 and catching, Elrod Hendricks. The number 7 hitter for Baltimore, second baseman, Dave Johnson. Batting 8, shortstop, Mark Melander. The pitcher, Jim Palmer. For the Cincinnati Redlegs, leading off in right field, Pete Rose. Batting 2, the center fielder, Bob Tolan. The number 3 hitter, third baseman, Tony Perez. Batting 4, catcher, Johnny Bench. Number 5 hitter, first baseman, Lee May. Batting 6, left fielder, Bernie Carbo. Batting 7 at second base, Tommy Helm. Batting 8 at shortstop, Woody Woodward. And the pitcher, Gary Nolan. The umpires this afternoon at the plate, Ken Burkhardt at first base, John Flaherty of the American League, Tony Benzone of the National League at second base, Bob Stewart of the American League at third, Billy Williams of the National League on the left field line, and Emmett Ashford of the American League on the right field line. We pause 10 seconds for station identification.
KGW Portland. If you've got a bigger than average appetite, try McDonald's Big Mac. It's a triple-decker meal disguised as a sandwich. You'll find Big Mac only at McDonald's, your kind of place.
Now the Cincinnati Reds take the field, and we'd like to just say a word or two about their outstanding starting pitcher this afternoon, Gary Nolan. He's a 22-year-old right-hander, posted an 18-7 record, topped only by the Reds' 20-game winner, Jim Merritt. Gary was born in Huron, California, still resides in that wonderful state of California, making his home now in Oroville. It is Gary's opinion that there is more pressure getting into the World Series than playing in it. Gary says once you're there, pride will carry you. If you have a good game, you win, and that's all. This fine young right-hander went on to say that I've learned already what many pitchers don't learn until late in their careers, and learn he did in a hard way, too. After posting an outstanding 14-8 record in his rookie season, the arm misery nagged him for the next 2 years. In 1968, he fell off to a 9-4. In 69, to an 8-8. As opening day pitcher in 69, he struck out a dozen of the Los Angeles Dodgers, but lost it 3-2. Then in his next outing against Atlanta, he pulled a muscle in the right forearm facing Hank Aaron in the 6th inning. Won the game, but it cost him 3 months, and maybe the Reds a pennant. He went down to Indianapolis, returned in early August to rip off 6 wins of 8 decisions. No longer overpowering, he had to develop another pitch. And this he did with the aid of former teammate catcher Johnny Edwards. The pitch was a changeup, and a very good one, and it's paying off for him this afternoon. So it'll be Gary Nolan on the mound. And let's now set the Reds defensively for you in your mind's eye as you look around that infield. At third base, it's Tony Perez. At shortstop, Woody Woodward. At second base, Tommy Helms. At first base, Lee May. The outfield and left has Bernie Carbo. In center field, Bobby Tolan. And in right field, it's Pete Rose. On the mound, Gary Nolan. And behind the plate, the incomparable Johnny Bench. And again, the umpires from the National League at the plate, Ken Burkhardt. American League John Flaherty at first. The National League Tony Benzone at second. The American League Bobby Stewart at third base. On the left field line, Bill Williams of the National League. And on the right field line, Emmett Ashford of the American League. Game number 1 in the greatest sports classic of all, the 1970 World Series. And here is Jim Simpson.
Thanks, Chet Thompson, and what a picture postcard it is. With that artificial turf, the green of the infield and outfield with only little portions of dirt around home plate, first place, second base, third, and of course the pitching mound. Gary Nolan stops to look around as the ball got away from Bobby Tolan in center field and Pete Rose, who were playing catch in the pregame warm-up. Down deep with the leadoff batter, hitting .272 throughout the regular season, a switch hitter, and one of the best, if not the best, leadoff hitters in Baltimore history steps in. And against the right-hander Gary Nolan, of course, Buford will bat left-handed. In the playoff series against Minnesota, Buford played the first 2 games, hit a home run, drove in 3, and had a .429 playoff series average. Now, Gary Nolan of Cincinnati, the right-hander, fastball are ready and throws a breaking pitch on the first pitch. It's low ball 1 to Buford. On deck will be Paul Blair. Average at game time, 55 degrees. Little or no wind. The sun is out. And this is a pick-em series. Nolan is ready with his second pitch, comes back with a fastball, and is low. It's 2-0 to Buford, the leadoff batter. Buford had a percentage of getting on base this year of better than 400, 416. Nolan ready and throws the fastball, and it's popped up, foul. Johnny Bench comes back near the screen, saves his eyes, looks, waits, has it for the first out. That'll bring up Paul Blair with 1 out in the top of the first inning. Blair, hitting .267 on the year, has power, 18 home runs, 65 RBIs, and as Chet said, it's going to be interesting to see Paul Blair play center field. He is a premier center fielder, but plays in and goes back on this artificial turf. It might get a little bit rough to get started. Blair hit .077 in the playoff series, but what a job he did with his glove. Low and away, the first pitch from Nolan is ball 1. Billy Hunter, the coach over third base today for the Orioles. George Stoller at first base. Youngster Gary Nolan. Big, tall, heavy right-hander. Fastball and goes to right by Blair. And it's 1-1. On deck is Big Boog Powell. Buford leads it off. He fouled off the bench. Blair batting second. Hal the third. Frank Robinson will be batting cleanup against his former teammates, the Cincinnati Reds. Gary Nolan ready again. Curveball low. And it's 2-1 to Blair. Baltimore, Chuck said, won 108 games this year. Cincinnati won 102. Baltimore won 40 one-run ball games, and that is an American League record. Nolan is ready. Fastball and throws it right by Blair. And it's 2-2. Nolan likes to throw the change and the off-speed breaking pitches, but of course his premier pitch is the fastball. As is Jim Palmer's, the pitcher for Baltimore. Palmer has even junked the slider. Fastball curve, and says by junking the slider, he can get more on his fastball. But for the moment, it belongs to Gary Nolan, waiting for Bench's signal, and is ready. Back with a 2-2 pitch, and it's popped up to the infield. Back goes Woody Woodward at shortstop. In short center field, Tolan's right behind him. They collide, but Woodward has the ball, and there's 2 out. And Boog Powell, the first left-hander to face Nolan today, aside from, of course, Buford, who is a right and left-hander, but the bona fide left-handed power of Baltimore is represented in this young man. Boog Powell hitting at .297, 35 home runs, 114 RBIs, and the votes are already in for the Most Valuable Player award, and there are those who say that this gentleman right here should get it. Boog Powell. As the Orioles go, so goes Boog Powell, or vice versa. The shift is on. Helms comes over near first base. Low breaking pitch in on Powell. It's ball 1. Woody Woodward is just a step or two. Will make it about 5 or 6 steps to the right, the first base side of second base.
does not play as deeply for Powell as he does for Willie Stargell of the Pirates, where he backs up another 30 feet from where he is now, and he is off where the skin of the infield would be if there were a skin in this artificially turfed stadium. On an 0 pitch, is low, gets away from bench, rolls to the screen, and it's 2-0 to Powell. Buford led it off by hitting a 2-0 pitch, fouling out to bench. Blair came right back, working the count to 2-2, and then hit a ball to short center, which is gloved by Woody Woodruff. So no score, 2 outs, top of the first. From Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. 2-0 pitch, strike, fastball on the inside corner. Now we want to say hello to all of you listening on American Forces Radio, which over the 300 stations of that network is reaching U.S. troops and Americans living overseas in almost every corner of the earth. Swing and a miss on a good high outside fastball. It's 2-2 to Powell. Our radio coverage of the World Series today being heard live in Vietnam, Korea, Japan, Europe, the Caribbean, and on United States ships at sea. And in the Far East, they're being carried live and again rebroadcast later because of the time difference. They're being carried live and again rebroadcast later because of the time difference. Al with 2 out of the 2-2 count, and he's called out on a pitch on the inside corner. Ken Burkhardt of the National League makes the strikeout call. And young Gary Nolan gets him 1, 2, 3. So at the end of 1/2 inning of play, Baltimore nothing with Cincinnati coming to bat. And now here's Chuck.
This 1970 World Series marks the windup of a long, tough season. These players had to stay in shape for 162 grueling regular season contests and still be up for this series. It takes great conditioning to maintain that peak performance. Your car's engine has a similar problem. You expect peak performance from your car mile after mile, year after year, under all kinds of conditions. And that's why your engine needs the regular conditioning you now get from the new improved STP gasoline treatment. New improved STP gas treatment cleans your spark plugs better and cleans your carburetor better. New improved STP gas treatment actually cleans and tunes your engine as you drive. Keeps those harmful deposits of carbon from building up in the first place. So to keep your car's engine in shape every season of the year, have your service station add new improved STP gas treatment whenever you fill up. That's new improved STP gasoline treatment. You'll feel the difference. Well, Gary Nolan had little or no difficulty in the first inning and pitched as he did in the playoffs, and just to handle the Orioles in 1-2-3 fashion. And now on the mound for Baltimore will be the, almost 25-year-old right-hander. As a matter of fact, he will celebrate his 25th birthday some 5 days from now. Jim Palmer for the Orioles. And the leadoff for the Cincinnati Reds, one of the most exciting players in all of baseball, Pete Rose.
Pete Rose had 200 hits again during 1970, 5th time in his career, and 5 times in the last 6 years. The 1 year he did not reach the 200 mark. He was injured and missed a good portion of the game. Palmer ready and comes in with a fastball low to Rose, who was a switch hitter. Ball 1. Pete hit .316 on the year. He was the defending champion in the batting race. Palmer ready again, quick worker, and this one is low again, just below the knees. It is 2-0 to Rose. Palmer the pitcher, Ellie Hendricks the catcher. Palmer comes back, ground ball. Belanger has it on 2 hops at shortstop, guns the ball to first and is 1 out. Bruce Powell, the first baseman, Davy Johnson down at second, Mark Belanger at short, Brooks Robinson at third. All 3 won the Golden Glove for excellence in fielding last year. Tom Buford out in left field, Paul Blair in center, Frank Robinson in right. Bobby Tolan hitting .316. Tolan quite a hero in the playoffs when he either batted in or scored all of the runs in the 3-1 victory over the Pirates in the second game. Bobby led the National League and the majors in stolen bases with 57, swings at a breaking pitch, strike 1. Good power, 16 home runs, 80 RBI. Tolan came over with Wayne Granger in the trade for Beta Pinson before the beginning of last season. On the right back working fast, fastball is low at 1-1. Bobby has not hit below 300 since coming over from St. Louis. And he's got youth all in his favor. He is only 24 years old. Left-handed batter facing the right-handed Jim Palmer. Palmer throws and catches the outside corner with a fastball. It's 1-2. As we said, Palmer either throws the fastball or a curve. He is discarded. There's a curve hit to right field. Robinson will have it down by him up against the fence. Coleman with great speed goes to second base and will hold there with a double. Nolan lines a curveball off the wall about 380 feet away on the first hop. And that's the first base runner of the day. And it brings up Tony Perez. 40 home runs, 129 RBIs. He had a home run against the Pirates in the recent playoff series and hit .333 against them. Perez is a right-handed batter, well over 6 feet tall, and better than 200 pounds. Cincinnati was shut out one time this year. Baltimore was only shut out 6 times. The Reds are threatening. Fastball, right field. Robinson backing on the ball, not too deep. Near the warning track now, and back to the warning track. Nolan tags. Robinson's throw goes to the cutoff man as Bobby Nolan goes to third base with 2 out, and Johnny Bench coming to bat. Bench only had 2 hits in the playoff series with the Pirates. They both came in the important third game, and the first one, quite naturally for John, was a home run. Led the major leagues in homers with 45 and RBIs with 148, and batted .293, well over 300 since the All-Star break. Bench, the young catcher, and seeking the Most Valuable Player award. Should he win it for the National League, he'll be the youngest in history to do it. Right-handed batter, Palmer back with the fastball, laced over the head. It's 1-0 Cincinnati. Over the head of Rick Robinson. Bench makes the turn at first. Cincinnati goes in front. Bench swinging on the first pitch, lining a single over the head of Robinson at third base. And Nolan scores from third. Well, they talk an awful lot about Johnny Bench, saying he could be a super football player, super basketball player, whatever he wanted. He is certainly a super baseball player. Here's Relay, another home run hitter. Big curve, stays high. Henry Costa came up to get it. Ball 1. May, 34 home runs, 94 RBIs on the year. Moves well for a big man, plays first base. And the big red machine now leads what Sparky Anderson calls a big bad bird, 1-0. Here's a drive to left field. On one hop to Dupers. Bench stops at second. And with 2 outs, the Reds now have runners at first and second. And Bernie Carbo coming to bat. The third hit in this inning of Jim Palmer, who struck out 12 last Monday while defeating Minnesota in the final game of the American League Championship 6-1. And now, very quickly, Baltimore is going to do some talking with its pitcher, Jim Palmer. George Bamberger, the pitching coach, comes out. And down in the bullpen, Tom Phoebus begins to warm up for the Orioles. Rose grounded out on a 2-0 pitch to Belanger. Easy chance to shortstop. Bobby Tolan hit a curveball on a run hop. It went off the wall 380 feet away. Perez's fly ball sent Frank Robinson back to the warning track. He caught it. Tolan tagged, went on to third. Johnny Bench hit the first pitch to score Tolan from third. It was 1-0, and Lee May followed with a single, sending Bench to second with 2 outs. Bernie Carbo, a rookie, hitting .310 with 21 home runs and 63 RBIs, and a prime candidate for Rookie of the Year, steps to that. And talking about the Orioles and talking about the Reds, you see why everybody's excited about this World Series. Both teams loaded with talent and the winning habit. Curveball dropped by Hendricks. It's a little high, and it's 1-0 to Carbo. Carbo left-hander facing the right-handed Jim Palmer. Palmer they called Mr. Cool. The youngest ever to win a World Series game at age 20. He bested Sandy Koufax in the second game of the '66 World Series. Back with the fastball on the outside corner for Nees. It's strike 1. 1-1. Bench at second, May on at first. 2 down, 1-0 Cincinnati. We're in the last of the first inning of the first game of the 1970 World Series in Cincinnati. Palmer pitching from the stretch, looking back at Bench. Comes back with a fastball, line drive to Robinson to end the inning. Sharply hit ball, but Brooks had it. 1 run on 3 hits, no errors, 2 left. And at the end of 1, Cincinnati 1, Baltimore 0.
Hey, Bud, if you want to get in on a terrific deal, listen to this. You know the Gillette Techmatic razor, the razor that gets the nubs? Well, here's the deal. Right now, when you buy the Gillette Techmatic razor, America's top-selling razor, you get a can of Gillette Foamy Shave Cream with lemon lime, free. You get that? Foamy with lemon lime, free. So what are you waiting for? Get the Gillette Techmatic razor now. A deal like this don't last forever.
As one of America's major trade unions, the Retail Clerks International Association brings the benefits of democracy to the place of employment of more than 600,000 store workers with good wages and good working conditions. The Retail Clerks Union, believing in the democratic processes of government, urge all Americans to vote on November 3rd. This message from the Retail Store Employees Union in your community, started by the Retail Clerks International Association, Washington, D.C., 20006. And at the end of the first inning of play, it's the Cincinnati Reds 1 and the Orioles nothing.
Johnson, I've got a question for you. You've seen every Major League game that Jim Palmer has pitched. Is it true that he either has it or he does not? Or if he can last past a couple of innings, he gets stronger? What's his pattern?
I have seen this happen to Palmer. The only tip-off that I have ever gotten on Palmer being in difficulty was really not so much the base hit. When his pitches are high and he cannot get the ball down, then you can be reasonably sure that Palmer will be in for a very uncomfortable afternoon. I have not seen it yet.
Well, here's the story. National League's most valuable player, American League's most valuable player, Rookie of the Year in the National League, longtime member of Cincinnati, Frank Robinson, has come home, batting right-handed against Gary Nolan to lead off the second inning, and takes Nolan away from Nolan, who looked as though he might have tripped coming off the mound. It's ball one. It's 1 run on 3 hits, no errors for the Reds. They got their run in the first inning, driven in by Johnny Bench. No runs, no hits, no errors, and for that matter, no base runners for the Orioles as we lead off the second. Nolan is back high. The ball is hit to left center field. Nolan is over now, comes in, and almost runs into Bernie Carbo, and it is Carbo who makes the catch. That's the second time that Nolan has come in. Behind Woodward on one occasion, and now behind Carbo on another.
Jim, that's one point we have not had a chance to check out with a lot of the ball players, but with a capacity crowd and a great deal of noise in the ballpark, it might be a little difficult for the outfielders and infielders to communicate and to hear each other on the call for the ball. We've seen it happen twice.
Brooks Robinson, right-hander, takes Nolan away from Gary Nolan, ball one. Robinson hit 276 on the regular year, was trying like mad to wind up at his season's average for his life of 281, but fell short. Did hit 18 home runs, 94 RBIs. Had a great playoff series. After the fastball, high is Nolan. It's 2-0 to Brooks Robinson. Brooks was 7 for 12 and hit .583 and scored 3 times in the American League Championships against Minnesota. A sunny day, temperature in the mid-50s. Nolan back with a fastball, and it is fouled back to the screen by Brooks Robinson. It's 2-1. An expected crowd here today. Capacity, of course, is sold out for today and tomorrow. 51,340. Baltimore, a veteran ball club with very few changes since last year when the Mets took them in 5 games. Cincinnati, a young ball club that hasn't been in the World Series since 1961 when they lost in 5 games to the New York Yankees. Baltimore's average age as a team about 3.5 years older than Cincinnati. Baltimore nearly 30 years of age. Low and away again from Nolan, who again looks back at the pitching rubber as though he's having a little trouble. It's 3-1, and this is the first time he's gone this far on any batter. 3 balls, 1 strike, 1-0 Cincinnati. At the top of the second, 1 out. Brooks Robinson the batter. Nolan is back. Down ball, backhanded by Perez at third base. A long throw, gloved by May. 2 down. Nice play for Tony Perez at third base for several reasons. Number 1, he is a converted first baseman. Number 2, he's playing on artificial turf, and your reactions have to be super fast to be able to go over and backhand the ball that is hit down the line here on this kind of turf. Ellie Hendricks hit .242 during the year, broke his finger on September the 9th, came back toward the end of the season, and batted .400 playing in 2 games of the championship playoff. Low from Nolan, ball 1. Crowd quiet, but they had excitement in the first inning when Tolan doubled and Benson May followed with singles for the 1-0 score. Hit on the disc and fouled back over our head. And it's strike 1 to Hendricks, 1-1. Hendricks, a big, tall, rangy left-handed hitter who at one time led the Mexican League in home runs. He broke his finger, but if you check with Ellie, he has broken one of his legs, I forget whether it's right or left, 3 or 4 times. Playing all different sports. On ball, 1 strike to Hendricks. 2 out, top of the second. The Reds leading it by a score of 1-0. Gary Nolan, 22 years old, in a World Series game. 1-1 pitch is blown inside. It's 2-1. Just thinking. 9 years ago, when the Reds were last in the World Series, Gary Nolan was 13 years old. 2 balls, 1 strike. Nolan stares for his sign, has it from bench, and is back with a 2-1 pitch. It's fouled off the fifth, back to the screen again. It's 2-2. As a matter of fact, Milt Wilcox, who was the second pick in the free agent draft by the Reds back in 1968 and who pitched 3 shutout innings of effective ball, looked terrific. A high thrower like the Reds' other youngster, Don Gullett. Wilcox, believe it or not, for those of you who are in our era, age bracket, was born in 1950. But they were also saying back in 1966 that Jim Palmer was only 20 years old, and he won a World Series game. 2-2 pitch inside with the fastball. It's 3-2. So Nolan went to 3-1 on Brooks Robinson before getting him on a backhanded stab by Perez at third, and now it's gone all the way 3-2 on Hendricks. Gary is ready. Ground ball foul, taken by May, and back at the first base coaching box. It's still 3-2. And Nolan on that particular play looked very fast. He was almost to first base, breaking from the mound as May gloved the ball in foul territory. May at first, Helms at second, Woodward the shortstop, Perez at third, Carbo in left, Coleman in center, Rose in right, bench behind the plate, and Gary Nolan ready again on a 3-2 pitch in the second inning. Fastball hit off the fifth, popped straight up in the air, bench watches it as it will fall in the seats and back. Well, apparently caught in back of home plate. Earlier in the week, they expected rain. The rain came last night. The forecast for today, high near 60, and for tomorrow, a little bit warmer. For both days, fair, with little wind. Ellie Hendricks steps in now. This will be the 8th pitch that Nolan has thrown to him in this second inning. Ball is thrown high outside, and he hits it to the right side. May is in foul territory, off the bag at first base, and has it for the third out. No one hit to Harris, none left. In the middle of the second, Cincinnati leads Baltimore 1-0.
You impatient for the morning, and you must have something new. That's a Plymouth. Come and sing. There's a little bit of magic in the car that's spanking new, and we put it all together just for you. This is Lewis coming through with Chrysler Plymouth. Be sure to see that great new Plymouth Sebring. Take it from Satchmo, it's the greatest. Chrysler Plymouth. Come and sing.
For 1971, Chrysler Plymouth offers more kinds of new cars than anyone else in the business. Why not let a Chrysler or a Plymouth come through for you? We pause 30 seconds for station identification.
KGW in Portland. Why not enjoy next year's World Series in person? You can if you start an Equitable savings account now. You'll find the right savings plan with high earnings to meet your needs, including the 5 1/4% 90-day passbook savings account, plus an extra bonus, S&H Green Stamps. 1 stamp for every dollar saved in any Equitable savings account. Up to 1,000 stamps per deposit. Earn an extra bonus on your money today at Equitable Savings.
Jim Simpson with Chuck Thompson in Cincinnati. Last of the second, Tommy Helms, the batter. Ball 1 from Palmer, who comes right back with a second pitch, which is foul back toward us. It's 1-1. 1-0 the score. Cincinnati leads it. Jim Palmer, 20-game winner, throws again, hit to the left side by Helms. Brooks Robinson stands there, now a step or two to his left, looking into the sun, and has it for the first out of the second inning. That'll bring up Woody Woodward. Woody, an original bonus boy of the Atlanta Braves, has given stability to a fine infield. Dave Concepcion, a youngster, started the season at shortstop, a very hot hitter in the minor leagues. But Woodward's sure fielding took over, as Concepcion also did not hit. Woody is not a big hitter, has only hit 1 home run in his major league career. Low from Palmer, it's 4-1. Ted Krzyzewski, who was in a 59 World Series, but with Chicago, not Cincinnati, coaching at first. Alex Gramus at third. Ground ball to left side. Brooks Robinson, couple steps to his right, throws high, and he's safe as Howell had to jump for the ball. His foot was off the bag, and Woody Woodward is safe at first base. The high throw from Golden Glove winner Brooks Robinson draws an arrow.
here's a fellow that has won the Golden Glove 10 times. But he has thrown high to first base, and Woodward is safe. And now Gary Nolan is up there. Chuck told you a little bit about bunting here on this artificial turf. Unless you are an excellent punter, the bunt has almost been taken away. The ball reaches the infielder so quickly. But Nolan is up there and is throwing around the bunt. It's the strike at the knees as he takes it, as Robinson was breaking in from third and Boog Powell from first. One out in the last of the second. Cincinnati leading 1-0 on Nolan's double and Johnny Bench's single in the first inning. Gary Nolan steps out, looks down to Alex Kramus, who's coaching at third for the Reds. On strike count, Nolan looks like he's going to swing, does, fouls it off to the right. Well, I can remember on Monday afternoon here when the Pittsburgh Pirates in the National League Championship playoff had men at first and second and none out. They sent up their pitcher, Bob Moose, to move them over with a bunt. He was unsuccessful. Pittsburgh never scored, and Cincinnati went on to win it by the score of 3-2. 2 strikes to Gary Nolan. Palmer looking back over his shoulder, now checks at first base, and Woodward is back. Woody makes his home in Tallahassee, Florida, graduate of Florida State. Now Nolan's going to bunt, out in front of the plate, picked up by Brooks Robinson, has to go to first. The sacrifice is complete. As moving into second is Woody Woodward, and Pete Rose comes up. On a 2-strike count, Nolan's sacrifice bunt is good. Woodward, who reached on Brooks Robinson's error, goes down to second, and Rose is running out in the first inning, comes up. And I'm sure you'll recall in the 10th inning of the first National League playoff championship game, there was Pete Rose's single that broke the scoreless tie. Brooks Robinson, that was his first World Series error. That throw to Boog Powell in his 10th World Series game. Rose watches the pitch outside from Jim Palmer. This trouble here in the second inning, of course, is not of Palmer's doing. The error has him in a little bit of trouble. 1-0 the count to Pete, batting left-handed, switch hitter. 2-0 now as the ball is high and away. Rose worked the count to 2-0 back in the first inning and then grounded the Belanger at shortstop. Down at second base, Woody Woodward. Rose hits right-handed pitchers a lot better. Here's Palmer's pitch, and it's fouled off into the seat. 2-1. He is a switch hitter, but prefers and is more successful to bat against right-handed pitchers. On deck is Bobby Tolan, who doubled in the first and scored on Bench's single for the only run of the ball game. Infield, deep. The outfield not too deep, and playing a little bit around toward left. Not playing Rose to pull at all. Ground ball. Over the head. Tough chance Belanger by second base. Throws on to first and has the Rose. Has Rose at first, and Palmer and the Orioles are out of the inning. No runs, no hits, 1 error, and 1 left. At the end of 2, Cincinnati won. Baltimore nothing.
This is Kurt Dowdy. You know there's only one game as big as the World Series game, and that's the All-Star game. This year, the All-Star game had something extra. The finals are the first annual official Major League Baseball pitch hit and throw competition, sponsored by Phillips 66. 8 boys aged 9 through 12 had worked their way through local, district, and divisional competitions all the way to the All-Star game. And I want to tell you, you've never seen youngsters as thrilled in all your life. They competed in the finals right on the field before the game, met the ball players, and just had the time of their lives. And you know, next year could be your son. Now think about that. So when spring rolls around, start getting a little father and son practice. Enter your son in the second annual official Major League Baseball pitch hit and throw competition, sponsored by Phillips 66. You both could wind up at the All-Star game. Remember, at Phillips 66, it's performance that counts.
This is Chuck Thompson along with Jim Simpson at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Game 1 of the 1970 World Series, and they just announced the official paid attendance for game number 1 in Cincinnati. And if I caught the figures correctly, it's 51,531 paid. And at the end of 2 innings of play, the Reds won, the Orioles nothing. Cincinnati 1 run, 3 hits, and no errors. The Orioles no runs, no hits, and 1 error. Throwing error to Brooks Robinson, as Gary Nolan has retired the Orioles in order through innings 1 and 2. Jim? Dave Johnson, the leader off against Nolan in the top of the third. Johnson had a great playoff series, hitting 364 with a couple of home runs. Fastball is high from Nolan, who keeps staring back at that rubber as he comes off with a little hit. And now does a little gardening.
1-0 to Johnson to be followed by Belanger and the pitcher Jim Palmer. Gary Nolan, the right-handed fastballer, is back, and the ball is hit high and the short center field. Both Helms and Woodward goes out, and now Helms gives the sign to Woodward that he's got it and takes it for the first out. So Gary Nolan has now retired 7 in a row. And there have been high pop fouls to Bench. There have been balls hit high to Woodward at short, to short left field, and this little pop to Helms in short center. So they have not been getting a good piece of the ball at all against Nolan. Here's Belanger, who takes inside ball 1 from Nolan.
Jim, normally that's a sign that the pitcher has a better than average fastball. Wouldn't you agree?
I would, and of course, Gary Nolan's got one of the best in the National League. Back with it, and Belanger is way behind as he simply blows it right by. Strike 1. 1-1 to Mark Belanger. Belanger hitting at 217 on the year, but he closed very fast. He was below 200. Hit 333 in the playoff series against Minnesota. Another fastball called strike. On the outside corner, 1-2. 1 out. At the top of the third, 1-0 Cincinnati. They scored in the first. Got a double by Pullman and a single by Johnny Bench. Baltimore's only been shut out 6 times all year. Cincinnati won't be shut out today. They've only been shut out once all year. Belanger way out in front of a changeup and pulls the towel into the seat. Today behind the plate, Ken Burkhardt of the National League. Umpiring, John Ritzler of the American League down at first base. Tony Benson of the National League at second. Bob Stewart of the National League at third. Bill Williams of the National League in left. And in his first World Series, and the Astrid of the American League is in right. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Belanger. Nolan back to the fastball and has him swinging. That's the second strikeout. The first he's got on Orioles swinging. He has Powell looking to end the first inning. That'll bring up Jim Palmer, a better than average hitter for a pitcher. Hitting at 150, has 3 Major League home runs, 1 of them this year, 9 RBIs this year. Palmer, the workhorse of the Baltimore staff, with 305 innings pitched. Fastball at the knees, strike 1 from Nolan. When you consider that Jerry is 22 and Jim Palmer will be just 25 later this month, a couple of youngsters in which the first game of the World Series is entrusted. Another call strike on the fastball on the outside corner. It's 0-2 to Palmer. But then again, Chuck Thompson, you know, I've got to remember that baseball is a young man's game.
You would bring that up.
Nolan takes off one time for Bench, or at least apparently does, as he wags his head, comes back with a breaking pitch. Palmer doesn't go for it. It's blown away, ball 1, 1-2. 51,531. Now the capacity, seating capacity for baseball here at Riverfront Stadium, 51,340. Nolan ready with another curveball, and it's grounded to Helms at second base with an underhanded flip to Lee May, and again a 1-2 inning for Gary Nolan. Nobody's reached base against him. We go to the last of the third. Cincinnati 1, Baltimore 0.
Walter Johnson had a pitch that they used to call the radio ball. They said you could hear it, but you couldn't see it. Well, if most men's hairdressings were that way, it wouldn't be so bad, but they're not. And I mean, not only can you see the grease they leave on your hair, but you can feel it. And that's why you'll like Vitalis. It holds your hair in place without any grease. So if you want to look good naturally, don't kid yourself. Use Vitalis. That's Vitalis. It's greaseless. And Jim Simpson, it would be hard to see Gary Nolan do any better. That's right, and in the last of the third, Nolan Perez and Bench will face Palmer. Good wages and good working conditions are a major objective of the Retail Clerks International Association. But as one of America's foremost trade unions, it assumes a further responsibility, a commitment to the support of democratic processes in government. Good government depends on citizens who care enough to use their rights to vote. Vote on November 3rd. This message from the Retail Store Employees Union in your community. Chartered by the Retail Clerks International Association, Washington, D.C., 20006. Jim, I have a chance to remind folks that every sport fan can share in America's Olympic effort, and here's how. You send a $5 check today to Olympic House, Box CD, 57, Park Avenue, New York, 10016. And in return, you'll receive a colorful embroidered cloth hat commemorating the 1972 Olympic Winter Games to be held in Sapporo, Japan. As an Olympic contributor, you'll wear it proudly.
Last of the third inning, Bobby Tolan hit a curveball and bounced the double off the wall. He's up there again, and Palmer comes in with a fastball that is low and away.
Palmer in trouble in the first, giving up a double to Nolan, a run-throwing single to Bench, another single to May. Was in trouble in the second when Woodruff reached on an error. There's a strike to Nolan. It's 1-1. But Jim has not been wild high. When he's missed the plate, most of the time he's been low. Comes back, but this time is very wild high. And it's 2-1. To Bobby Nolan. 1-0 the score in this first game of the 1970 World Series. Second game tomorrow. Scheduled pitchers Jim McLaughlin for Cincinnati and Mike Cuellar for Baltimore. Fastball is outside to Nolan, and it's 3-1. And this is the first time Palmer has gone this far with the batter. 3 balls, 1 strike to Nolan, the left-handed batter. Back with a fastball, and he fouls it back, swinging on the 3-1 pitch. It's 3-2. 1 run, 3 hits, no errors for the Reds. No runs, no hits, 1 error for the Orioles. Game 2, of course, is here tomorrow. Monday is an off day. And then as many games as necessary, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Baltimore. And if more necessary, Friday's an off day. And Saturday, Sunday back here. Fastball outside, Nolan, the dangerous base runner who leads the majors in stolen bases, has drawn the first walk of the ball game. And Tony Perez is the batter. Now we must keep an eye on Nolan, who already has walked 5 or 6 steps off at first base, calling time with Red Flaherty, the umpire there, just to check how that footing is at first base after the rain last night. Perez tried to right last time up, and after the catch, Nolan, who had been at second, went on to third. Right-handed batter against right-handed Palmer, low with the fastball. Palmer, it's 1-0. Perez, you must play deep for 40 home runs. But look at the man behind him, Johnny Bench, 45 home runs. Now checks to Nolan at first base, but he's back in time. Now, Jim Palmer, although trailing only 1-0, has been in mild trouble or serious trouble in each of the 3 innings. There goes Nolan. High, Hendricks can't get the ball out of his glove. Stolen base for Bobby Nolan. Well, you knew it, I knew it, the Orioles knew it, and Nolan knew he was going to try it, and he did it. I don't know whether or not Hendricks would have had a chance to throw him out had he been able to get the ball out of his glove, as Nolan had a tremendous jump on Jim Palmer. So he's at second base with none out. Perez has a count of 2-0 on him. No activity in the Baltimore bullpen. Fastball, and it is fouled back. It's 2-1. To Tony Perez, hitting at .317. Perez is only 28 years old, now lives in Puerto Rico, born in Cuba. Has played for the Reds first base, second base, and this year mostly third base. Nolan leads away at second. Palmer's ready. Fastball hit again to right center field. Frank Robinson has to come in a little bit out of the shadows there. Has it. Nolan is tagging and now goes back. As the ball comes in a 1-hop, it bounces out of the glove of Mark Belanger. So Nolan remains at second. Perez for the second time flies to right. And here's Johnny Bench, who picked on Palmer's first pitch in the first inning, the single to left, to score the only run of the ball game. Bench, the 22-year-old who in the minor leagues played a half a year for one team, and they called him up to a high classification, and that minor league team immediately retired his number and uniform. He's been that good for so long a time. Can throw, can field, can play many positions, takes outside ball one, and of course can hit. And I'll tell you something else he can do. They had a country music festival here before a ball game one night. They gave him a guitar and Johnny Bench from Oklahoma, and also sing. Nolan down at second. 1-0 pitch, fastball. High at the short right field. Back goes Johnson. Groove foul. Davy Johnson says he's got it. Nolan pops back to second base. There's 2 out in the third. And that brings up Lee May, who followed Bench's single with a single in the first inning. His only other time at bat. Cincinnati, 1 run on 3 hits, all in the first inning. No errors. Baltimore, no runs, no hits. Nobody's even reached base. And 1 throwing error by Brooks Robinson. And we're in the last of the third inning. Palmer ready to pitch to Lee May. 253 hitter in the regular season and only 167 during the playoff championships with Pittsburgh. Swing foul tips the first pitch, which was high in the eye. Strike 1. Ted Krasuski well out of the coaching box and up the line at first base. Alex Ramis staring down at Bobby Nolan, who is leading off at second base. Back with a curve, and Palmer drops it over. It's strike 2 to Lee May. Nolan led off the inning, walking on a 3-2 pitch, stole second base, getting a tremendous jump on Jim Palmer. Stayed there, Perez fly to right, and then top to the second baseman, Davey Johnson. Another curveball, deep to left field. Back goes Buford, looking up. Home run, 3-0 Cincinnati. Picked on a Jim Palmer curveball and lined it over the fence in left field near the line for a 2-run homer. And remember, as Ricardo steps in and takes the fastball outside, it was a curveball that Bobby Nolan hit for a double to right field. Ball 2. 2-0 now to Bernie Cabo, who lined to Brooks Robinson at third base to end the first inning. Now Nolan doubled, then single him home in the first. Nolan walked, stole second base. That's ball 3 now to Cabo, and Lee May hits the home run. I believe I said Perez. Lee May hits the home run. Ball 4. Here's Tommy Helm. Down in the bullpen again, Tom Peebles. Warms up. He was up and throwing in the first inning. Helms popped out. There goes the runner. Picked out. Hendricks throw high and in with the stolen base. And now he slid over the bag, and Cabo is tagged out. Bernie Cabo slid past the bag. But 2 more runs score on Lee May's home run. And so, at the end of 3, Cincinnati 3, and Baltimore nothing. Let's talk for a minute about power. It's power that's so important in this game of baseball. You win a tennis without it. Of course, power is the key factor in auto racing, too. And that's why Andy Granatelli and the people at STP started making STP gasoline treatment. On the track, STP gas treatment helped Andy's race cars keep running at peak power and still get the best mileage possible. But there's something better now. New improved STP gas treatment. Now when you add STP gas treatment to your family car, it cleans spark plugs better and cleans your carburetor better. Actually cleans and tunes your engine as you drive. New STP gas treatment works to eliminate those power-robbing deposits of carbon that can build up in your car's engine. Tap it, tap, and power. Use new improved STP gas treatment in your car regularly, and you'll keep all the power you paid for. So next time you fill up, add a can of new improved STP gas treatment. You'll feel the difference. Here at the Riverfront Stadium, as the Baltimore Orioles come to bat, in the top half of the 4th inning, Gary Nolan has retired them in 1-2-3 order through innings 1, 2, and 3. And the big red machine of Cincinnati now leads Baltimore 3-0, and we go right back to Jim Simpson. All right, Chuck Thompson. Tom Buford switches to batting left-handed. Swings and takes a big shot and misses on the first off-speed pitch of Gary Nolan. Lead off the Baltimore 4th. Paul Blair and Boog Powell to follow. Nolan now working with a 3-run lead. Back with the fastball, it's in the dirt. And it's 1-1 to Buford. Nolan doubled in the first inning, driven home by a single by Johnny Bench. He walked, stole second in the third inning, and Lee May's homer scored him. There's another low inside pitch from Nolan. And it's 2-1. Paul Blair on deck. Ready for the 2-1 pitch. High to right field. But Pete Rose taps his glove as though he's going to catch it, standing there, and has it for the first out of the 4th inning. Paul Blair, who popped to Woodward at second base, is the batter. Now, this ball game is not over by a long shot. If you would like a statistic, first game winners in World Series have won 39. tied. First game losers have won 27 World Series. Now ready for the first pitch. And it's a curveball, and it goes right by the glove of Johnny Bench and rolls back to the screen. Broke off too soon, hit in front and to the right of the plate. Baltimore scored 10 times against Minnesota in the first game, 11 in the second and 6 in the third, and they have not gotten a man on base in this one. That's far, swinging and a miss. By Blair, it's 1-1. Looking for their first base runner. The Big Red Machine, as they like to call themselves, their bats have been potent. Nolan, their pitcher, has been effective. Baltimore hasn't been able to score. And their pitching, of course, has given up 3 runs. Now back to the screen by Blair, and it's 1-2. Nolan walks down off the mound. Sunny day in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the new Riverfront Stadium, where we were for the All-Star game back in July. One of the 3 brand new stadiums in the National League this year. The others at Pittsburgh, of course. And Connie Mack Stadium went out of existence. They'll have a new one there next year. Serve is low and away. Bench gloves it, and it's 2-2. To Paul Blair, 1 out. Top of the 4th inning. The Reds, 3 runs on 4 hits, including a 2-run homer by Lee May, no errors. No runs, no hits, 1 error for Baltimore. Fastball fouled off to the right, and it'll make the seats out of play. The shadows here at Cincinnati have begun to creep in down in the right field corner. By later in the afternoon, this Riverfront Stadium shadows will remind you much of how it was in Yankee Stadium, when shadows became of prime importance and very much of a problem for all left fielders. 2-2 the count. Blair picks on a curveball, a little dribbler having it charged by Perez, and he'll have no play, and there's the first hit of the ball game as Blair beats it out. The Orioles have their first hit. A little dribbler down the third base line, and here's Drew Powell, who was caught looking at a third strike on a 2-2 count to end the first inning. Big, powerful left-handed batter. 35 home runs during the regular season. Average of 297, he drove in 114. The Orioles trying to come to life. Fastball low to Powell from Gary Nolan. It's ball 1. Nolan very cool and calm. I know that they call Baltimore's Jim Palmer Mr. Cool, Mr. Calm, and he's appeared so today despite his problems. But Gary Nolan retired 10 men in a row before he gave up a little dribbler for a base hit. Inside to Powell, ball 2, 2-0. Kneeling on deck is Frank Robinson, one of the great competitors of baseball, who was the most valuable player while playing with Cincinnati. Ball hit to left field, very deep. Over goes Carbo. Looks up, home run to the opposite field by Drew Powell, and it's 3-2. Well, Gary Nolan started the game with a 10-inning scoreless streak, including going back to the regular season against the Dodgers. Then he had 9 innings against the Pirates in the first playoff game with nobody scoring. He worked the first 3 and a third innings here with nobody reaching base. Paul Blair picked on a little curveball and dribbled it down the third base line and beat it out, and Drew Powell on a 2-0 pitch homered to the opposite field, and it is 3-2. And here's Frank Robinson, who takes roll away with a fastball from Nolan, ball 1. Robinson flied to left, short left, to lead off the second inning, his other time up. Lee May's home run to left was by a right-handed batter, of course, and pulled down that third base line and left field line, whereas Big Drew Powell hit his to the opposite field. He's a left-handed batter. So the Orioles are right back at 3-2. Nolan with a high fastball, and it's 2-0 to Frank Robinson. And now Johnny Bench trots out to talk to Gary Nolan. 3 runs, 4 hits, no errors for the Reds. 2 runs, 2 hits, both of them in this inning. 1 error for the Orioles. The error made no difference in the ball game. Reds scored in the first on a double by Totem, a single by Bench, and then in the third on a walk by Totem, a home run by Lee May. And now here in the fourth, Baltimore has scored on a single by Blair and a home run by Powell. Conference over. The pitch, and it's fouled back. It's 2-1 to Frank Robinson. Lee May at first base, Tommy Helms at second, Woody Woodward the shortstop, Tony Perez at third. Ernie Carbo at left, Bobby Tolden in center, Pete Rose in right, Johnny Bench the catcher, and Nolan the pitcher. Ready for the 2-1 count. Throws fastball, right field. Pete Rose only takes a step or two, waves his glove, puts it up and has it for the second out of the Baltimore fourth. And that'll bring up Brooks Robinson. Now, Robinson, a fine third baseman, had a fine play put on him by third baseman Tony Perez, his other time up, in the second inning, where he took a shot with his backhand along the line and then threw out Brooks. Right-handed batter facing right-handed Nolan. Third ball in the dirt in front of the plate, bounces up, and Robinson himself retrieves it. Bounces it back to Ken Burkhardt, who will keep it in play. 1-0 to Brooks Robinson. Top of the fourth inning before 51,531 looking on at the first game of the 1970 World Series. Much talked about a pick'em series. Fastball, Perez will have the honors again at third base, goes on to first and has Robinson. That's 2-1 score on 2 hits, including a home run by Blue Cow. No errors and none left. As we go to the last of the fourth, the score, Cincinnati 3, Baltimore 2.
Yes, I got a Chrysler Corporation car, and I'll tell you, when you appreciate cushion air suspension is when you need positive control, which is all the time.
Take a car across country. You hit all kinds of roads, curves, bumps, but to keep control.
You don't want to be in trouble. Uncomfortable.
Extra care in engineering, extra value, extra worth. Cushion bars in front, leaf springs in the rear. On a curve, your car leans less. Over a bump, your car will level itself. Respond quicker. Your car will track in a straight line with less sway. You'll notice this even more if you're driving a station wagon or pulling a trailer.
Car won't dip as much when you brake, squat as much when you accelerate.
Dodge, Plymouth, and Chrysler. Cares about you and your family. Cares about your comfort and your safety. Torsion air suspension on all 1971 Chrysler Corporation North American-built cars.
We pause 30 seconds for station identification.
KGW Portland. Getting ahead in baseball or anything else requires planning. Equitable Savings helps Oregonians plan for the future with top earnings on a variety of savings plans. One is the 5 1/4% 90-day passbook savings account, plus an extra bonus, S&H Green Stamps. One stamp for every dollar saved in any Equitable Savings account. Get your extra bonus when you save at Equitable Savings.
Leads her off in the Cincinnati fourth and takes call strike one from Jim Palmer. This is Jim Simpson with Scott Thompson at Cincinnati. Right back with the fastball, it's inside. Helms leans away from it. It's 1-1. Well, this has been a rather explosive ball game. 5 runs have scored, 4 of those on home runs. Palmer's pitch is in the dirt, and it's 2-1. The big red machine, and as Sparky Anderson, the manager of Cincinnati, calls them, the big bad birds, are locked up in the first game of the World Series. Jim Palmer ready. High and inside to Helms. And the count goes to 3-1 to Tommy Helms. Helms had a lifetime average of 281. It's 237 this year, but has been the kind of man that Cincinnati's attack needs. Strike on the outside corner from Palmer, 3-2. In that Tommy is a batter that can move the runners along and is quite willing to give himself up to move them along. 3-2 pitch. Hit out into center field. Paul Blair trots back toward left center and has it for the first out of the fourth inning. That'll bring up Woody Woodward, who reached when he grounded to Brooks Robinson, who threw high, pulling Blue Cow off the bag. That was back in the second inning. The sacrifice along the second by Gary Nolan, but the inning ended when Pete Rose grounded out. Woodward, right-handed all the way, has experimented with switch hitting, but not in a game. Takes inside from Palmer. Ball 1. Woody, as we said, has hit his first major league home run this 1970 season. Palmer, fast worker, right back with the fastball, and it's fouled to the screen by Woodward. It's 1-1. They don't play Woodward too deep. And nearly straight away, perhaps pulled a little bit around toward right. Palmer ready for the 1-1 pitch. High in the air on the right side. Blue Cow comes off the bag in foul territory and has it for the second out of the fourth. And after a rough start, Palmer settled down in the second inning, had a difficult third inning when he gave up a two-run homer to Lee May, and now is having an effective fourth inning. Here is Gary Nolan. Successful sacrifice back in the second inning. He leads it 3-2. And when the last of the fourth, Palmer ready, and this ball slips out of his hand and does not even come toward the plate. It is halfway down the third base line. Obviously, Jim was going to throw a breaking pitch, and obviously it simply slipped out of his hand. Well, Ken Burkhart, as Palmer asked for, throws him another baseball. Well, Jim, when he was down in the minor league with that sore shoulder, said that at Pittsfield they used to use him as a first base coach because he was a celebrity having won in the World Series. Said it was embarrassing. I don't know if Jim's embarrassed about that pitch or not, but it's simply a ball that got away from him.
He was just, in that comment about Pittsfield, Jim, he was needling his teammate, Mark Belanger, the shortstop, who is from Pittsfield. Ball one is the count on the scoreboard, and Earl Weaver is talking to plate umpire Ken Burkhart as to determine whether or not it should be, if it is going to be, a call ball one, or whether it will be ruled just as no pitch, if he had dropped the ball. And this will be judgment on the part of umpire Ken Burkhart, and obviously, in that a one-ball count is on the scoreboard, he felt that Palmer had come through with the arm, but as is permissible, Weaver is objecting to this, and we now will have a conference between the plate umpire Ken Burkhart of the National League and the American League's umpire John Flaherty at first base, and they will decide whether the ball one count will stay or whether they'll wipe it out as no pitch, and that's where we stand.
Well, if you're wondering why it would not be a pitch, it is ball one, ruled Ken Burkhart after checking with John Flaherty down at first base. Weaver maintained that as Palmer rocked back into his motion, with his hand, the back of his hand toward the plate, it simply slid off the back of his hand and came up over his shoulder. But it was disallowed, and it's 1-0 to Gary Nolan. This ball backed him out of there, and it's 2-0. Well, Earl Weaver has had many conversations with umpires along the way. Nolan is back with a fastball, or rather, Palmer's back with a fastball to Nolan. For a strike, it's 2-1, and then last year, of course, he just been on a record where they threw him out of a World Series game. Another ball thrown high by Palmer, who I know is a fast worker, Chuck, but he is just simply getting the ball and firing it right back to Hendricks. Now he had to take some time out. As Nolan steps out, he's ready and throws, and there's a ball laid foul to right, and it's 3-2.
Jim, that's about Palmer's normal pace. He is quite a rapid worker. As a matter of fact, almost all of the Orioles starters are very rapid.
Jim is ready on a 3-2 pitch to Nolan. Ball is hit to center field. Palmer has to go back, but not too far, and off to his left and right center field, and has it for the third out. So Palmer has a good inning. Runs, hits, or errors, and none left. We've gone 4 complete now. Cincinnati leads Baltimore 3-2.
Hey, man. You know the stuff on top of your head? I'm talking about your hair. You know, it looks real great, except when you put the wrong things on it. Like oil, like water, like grease. Yuck. There's got to be a better way. And there is. The people at Gillette have a new thing called the Dry Look. The Dry Look. It comes in a can. Aerosol, that is. And keeps hair neat, natural, and looking dry. Hey, and guess what else? On top of that can is a valve, like a very special valve. Lets you set just the right degree of dry control you want. Light, or medium, or heavy. But you know what? Your hair will still look full and clean and natural. And dry. Only the Dry Look from Gillette gives you 3 degrees of dry control. Yeah, the wet head is dead. Long live the Dry Look. Long live the Dry Look. Long live the Dry Look.
Get the facts on drug abuse. If your child is school-aged, you'd better start doing your drug homework. You'll find a simplified cram course on drug abuse in the Federal Source Book, Answers to the Most Frequently Asked Questions About Drug Abuse. For your free copy, write to National Clearinghouse for Drug Abuse Information. Box 1080, Washington, D.C., 20013. Do your drug homework before you talk with your kids. Jim?
Stuck in watching Gary Nolan is a little slow coming out after being the last man to bat, and he's now taking his warm-ups. I know that you were polling the Baltimore Orioles, who've been here for several days working on this artificial turf, and I know that they have some new shoes. Did you get any idea of how many are wearing the new shoes and who is not, and for what reason? Well, to the best of my knowledge, I think the majority of the Orioles are wearing the standard spiked baseball shoe, but I have noticed that center fielder Paul Blair and left fielder John Buford are using the new soccer style, not the ripple sole, but the soccer style baseball shoe. And most of the Reds would use the soccer style baseball shoe, but not after the artificial turf has gotten wet. And we had quite a rain last night, and the outfield portion is still rather damp, and it appears they're wearing the normal baseball spike.
Top of the fifth inning, Ellie Hendricks up and hits the first pitch. Deep to right field, back goes Rose. Looks up. Home run, and we've got a tie ball game, 3-3. Ellie Hendricks hits the first pitch. Deep to right field. And you can tell we're in Cincinnati by the almost absolute quiet of the Red fans as they've seen a 3-0 lead dissipated. First on a 2-run home run by Bruce Powell to the opposite field, and this one pulled to right by Ellie Hendricks to lead off the top of the fifth. It is 3-3, and Dave Johnson the batter. Strike with a fastball from Nolan at the knee. Oh, Baltimore has hit 3 runs on 3 hits, 2 of them homers, 1 error. The Reds, 3 runs, 4 hits, 1 of them a homer, and no error. Low to Johnson. It's 1-1. Gary Nolan, big, tall right-hander in the red and white of the Cincinnati home uniforms, back and low and away. And again, we've been saying it all along, he keeps staring back at that rubber. Now this, of course, is Gary's home ballpark, and he's been most effective here. Pitched here many times, but nevertheless seems to be having trouble on the pitching now. 2-1. The count. Fastball, foul off to the right. It's 2-2. Well, this ball game started off like it was Cincinnati. Back in the first inning, Nolan doubled with single home by Bench. They added a couple of more in the third inning. On a walk by Nolan, a home run by Lee May, but Bruce Powell's 2-run homer in the fourth. And Ellie Hendricks' home run here to lead off the fifth is tied it at 3-3. Both starting pitchers still here. Fastball, line foul down the right field line. Still 2-2 to Dave Johnson. Johnson popped to Helms at second to lead off the third. Has 2 home runs in the playoff series. Baltimore is working on a 14-game winning streak. Last 11 of the regular season, 3 in the playoffs. Breaking pitch fouled back off the bat of Johnson, and it is still 2-2. Temperature has gone up. It was expected to get near 60 degrees this afternoon. As Seth said, it did rain last night, and there were high winds yesterday afternoon. But very little wind here this afternoon, and none predicted tomorrow, and an even milder day. 2-2, Gary Nolan is ready. Fastball fouled off again. The third straight time since the count has been 2-2 that Davey Johnson has fouled away a pitch. Nolan has the sign from Bench, comes back with a fastball, and he has fouled it back to the screen. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hendricks really pulled that home run to right field. No doubt about it. From the time it left his bat, Pete Rose trotted over a couple of steps and then stopped and watched it disappear into the blue seat. Back with the pitch, low and away, and now Davey Johnson is down to 3 balls, 2 strikes with Gary Nolan. Kneeling on deck is Jim Palmer, who was down 3-0 and is now tied with his pitching rival Nolan at 3-3. Swing and a miss. As Nolan picked something off his fastball then, and the change got Johnson out in front of it. Third strikeout for Gary Nolan, and here is Mark Belanger. He and Palmer staring back at each other. Palmer has his jacket on, and Belanger, of course, has now stepped in. He struck out in the third inning, swinging. Takes low and in the dirt from Gary Nolan. Belanger, as we said, hit .333 in the playoff series. What a defensive shortstop this man is. I'm sure Chuck can tell you many stories of many plays that he has seen. Fastball, it's fouled back. It's 1-1. Nolan has gone primarily with his fastball in this inning, but he got Johnson striking out with the change. We're in the top of the fifth. 3 runs, 4 hits, no errors for the Reds. 3 runs, 3 hits, 1 error for Baltimore. 1 out, low and away with the pitch, and it's 2-1 to Belanger.
activity we have had in either bullpen has been in Baltimore's on 2 occasions. Tom Phoebus has been up and throwing. Here's a 2-1 pitch, and it's foul. Off the chest protector of Johnny Bench. It's 2-2. First game of the 1970 World Series from Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we'll be here again tomorrow afternoon at the same time. Back again right down the middle, and Belanger stares at a third called strike. 4th strikeout for Gary Nolan, and the second for Mark Belanger, and here is Jim Palmer, who grounded the helm at second base, his only other time up in the 3rd inning. Woody Woodward trotted in, said something to Gary Nolan, and now goes back to his position at shortstop. Palmer was second in the American League in earned run average, 2.71 this year. Second last year also. Nolan throws, it's low, and it's ball 1. Cuellar and McNally worked slightly under 300 innings. Jim Palmer was the workhorse, 305 innings. Tries to bunt his way on. The ball is rolling and goes foul at third base, where Perez picks it up. And Palmer will come back, 1-1. Jim was born in New York City, grew up in Los Angeles, and went to school in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he was all everything: football, basketball, baseball. Will be 25 later on this month. Backs to hit again and picks on a curveball and fouls it off, and Buford in the on-deck circle takes his bat and stops the ball before it makes it to the Baltimore dugout. It's 1 ball, 2 strikes. 3-3. Ball game almost half over. And no telling who's going to win this thing, low and away, as it's 2-2. Look, it's just like they said. This was a slight favorite for Cincinnati. Then just before the game, somebody said, no, Baltimore's the favorite. Then they went up saying, pick them. And we got a 3-3 tie ball game at half over. As Jim Palmer swings and misses, striking out, and after giving up the home run to Ellie Hendricks, Gary Nolan struck out the side. 1 run on the home run. That's the only hit. No errors, none left. As we go to the last of the 5th, it's a tie ball game. Cincinnati and Baltimore, 3 apiece. We are back at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio, where the score is 3-3. This is Jim Simpson. As we go to the last of the 5th inning and the top of the batting order, Pete Rose, for the second half of today's game, the voice of the Baltimore Orioles, Chuck Thompson.
Thank you, Jim. Here is Palmer's first offering, a bunt attempt by Rose. He ran up on the pitch as if he were going to bunt and missed, and the strike is called. 1 strike to Rose. He has faced Palmer twice, bounced out to the shortstop both times. Switch hitter and a left-handed batter to the right-hand offerings of Palmer. The infield a little bit to the first base side as the next offering is cut out and fouled out of play behind the plate. And apparently it hit Rose. And Rose has gone to first base. Or there's catcher's interference. That's exactly what the call is. Now, catcher's interference on the part of Hendricks on the swing and the foul ball out of play. Hendricks apparently interfered with the swing, and we were marking the scorecard and suddenly looked up, and there was Rose on his way to first base. So it's catcher's interference. Not a time at that for Rose. And he reaches on the interference. And that'll bring in Bob Tolan. He has doubled in the alley in right center and walked, and has scored 2 of the Cincinnati 3 runs, and down to the bullpen goes the youngster, 40-year-old reliever Dick Hall for the Orioles. The lead at first by Rose, the set and the pitch by Palmer. Out over the outside corner, the strike is called. The Oriole infield now shortens up the course a little bit in double play depth. Powell is holding with the base runner Rose at first base. The outfield cuts to right and deep to Tolan. The pitch, swing and a foul out of play. 0-2, the count to center field of Bobby Tolan. One of the things the Orioles hoped they would be able to do against Cincinnati would be to keep Pete Rose and Tolan off the bases. Well, they have not been able to keep Tolan off the bases this afternoon, and Rose is now at first base. The 2-strike pitch to Tolan. Fouled away again off the third base side, and the count holds. Well, we've seen some rather unusual baseball in the first game of the World Series. An error charged to Brooks Robinson's first World Series error. And now catcher's interference charged to Hendricks. 2-strike pitch on the way is high on the count. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
To the left-hand swinging center fielder for the Cincinnati Reds, Bobby Nolan. Dick Hall, right-handed reliever, is throwing in the Orioles bullpen. 40 years old. The set by Palmer, a quick throw to first. Rose is back without any tag effort on the part of Howell. Fritz Robinson third, Belanger short, Johnson at second, Howell at first base. Buford left, Blair and Hunter, and Frank Robinson at right. The 1-2 pitch. High fly ball hit toward center field. Blair is coming up on it. Should be a routine catch. Settling under. He's got it for the first out of the inning. Nolan gone on the fly ball to center field, and that's the first time this afternoon that Nolan has not reached. Here now is Tony Perez in 2 trips against Palmer with big, strong, free swinging right-handed batsman is skied to the right fielder, Frank Robinson. And the Oriole outfield now is cut well around toward left field and very deep. The infield is swung over to the third base side as Palmer goes to first base. No play on Rose. Open the inning, reaching on catcher's interference. And you'll charge Hendricks with an error on that catcher's interference. High fly ball, deep cutter. Blair going back, cutting up under it now, backpedaling to make the grab. Blair catches. Rose takes the start to second base and then backs off. So Perez is gone on a fly ball to deep center field. Rose holds first base with 2 down. And now here is the young man that, quite honestly, I have been more than a little bit anxious to see. I have never had the opportunity to watch the young man in person. I have seen him on television naturally. Johnny Bench. He singled in the first inning to knock in the first red leg run. He pops to the second baseman in the third. Palmer's fifth. High pop up. It is Howell behind the plate. Maybe Hendricks will have the room. Setting up under it. Hendricks is looking, makes the catch for the final out of the inning. And at the end, the tie is complete now. It's Baltimore 3 and Cincinnati 3.
Well, it's true the Retail Clerk Union helped its more than 600,000 members obtain good wages and good working conditions. The heart of the union concept is that an organized group of people is more effective than one person striving for the same purpose. That principle of democracy in action applies to our government, with a significant manifestation being their right to vote. Vote on Election Day. This message from the Retail Store Employees Union in your community, started by the Retail Clerks International Association, Washington, D.C., 20006.
Exactly what we expected here, a deadlock between the Reds and the Orioles, 3-3. Back when Gillette introduced the famous Look Sharp March, nobody dreamed of the advances to come in shaving comfort. Stainless steel, super stainless, and now platinum. Today, Gillette uses a platinum alloy to smooth the edge of Gillette Platinum Plus Blade. A smoother edge means smoother shave. With even more comfort. Learn what it feels like to shave with Gillette's best blade. Gillette Platinum Plus. Double edge or injection. Try it in your race today.
Well, Jim, we talked about the first game being very important. We pointed out some statistics. The first game winners have won the series 39 times. First game losers have won 27 times. Pete Rose is the man who said this. The first game is the most important. And then referring to Jim Palmer, he said they're sending Palmer out there because they think, meaning Baltimore, they think he's their best. If we beat him, they have to start wondering, especially with 2 left-handers, meaning Cuellar tomorrow and McNally on Tuesday, coming up. Because against starting left-handers in Cincinnati, the Reds have won 17 out of 19 games. But they're going against the right-hander right now in Jim Palmer. And Palmer was down 3-0. But then a run, 2 of them, came on in the 4th inning by Powell's home run, and Ellie Hendricks' home run in the 5th has tied it up. So, as we go now to the top of the 6th, it's 3 runs, 3 hits, 2 errors for Baltimore, 3 runs, 4 hits, no errors for Cincinnati. That's top of the batting order for the Orioles, and a 3-3 tie going to the top of the 6th. Buford has fouled to the catcher and fly to the right fielder in 2 appearances against Gary Nolan. The red-leg right-hander fires pitch number 1, strike over the outside corner of the letter. Perez, the Cincinnati shortstop, is up rather shallow down the third base side. Buford with fine speed and artificial turf or no, he is a dangerous bunt threat. A swing and a pop-up foul that may be out of play. Coming back toward the box seat railing, Johnny Bench cannot make a play, and it'll be just a foul ball strike. 0-2 now for Don Buford. The rest of the Cincinnati infield is cut a little bit to the first base side. The outfield is shaded toward right. However, right fielder Pete Rose gives Buford a lot of room between his position and the foul line down in the right field corner. In other words, he figures that Buford is not so likely to pull the ball as to hit it toward the alley in center field. Pitch to Buford. High outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Well,
Well, in all of the stories you've read about the Orioles in Cincinnati, I think the one prevailing statement was how evenly matched these teams were. Ball 2, low and inside now to Buford. And if this first game is any indication of how the 1970 series is to be played, baseball fans are in for one of the fine series of recent history. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Brown Buford. Nolan throws. He's high again, and the count now is full, 3-2. Nolan has fanned 5 this afternoon. He has yet to give up the free ticket. At one time, he retired 10 Orioles in a row until Paul Blair broke the string with a scratch single down the third base side. 3-2 to Buford, fouled out of play. What a beautiful day for game number 1 of the 70 series. And Jim Simpson talked earlier about the night rain, and that's exactly what it was. If it had to rain, it rained at the right time, overnight, and in no way has affected the opening of the 70 series. 3-2 to Buford. Line drive base hit through the middle into center field, and Buford is on with the Orioles' 4th hit of the ball game, a line smash to center. That'll bring in Paul Blair, the Orioles center fielder, who is topped to short, and it was his scratch single that got the Orioles their first base hit and eventually led to their first run when Powell followed the scratch single by Blair with an opposite field home run. Blair in the first inning topped to shortstop. In that 4th inning, he took a full cut at the ball and it just trickled down the third base side, and Perez had no play to pitch. Over the outside corner of the knees, strike called. Right-hander throwing in the Cincinnati bullpen, Milt Wilcox, and the pitch coming to Blair Budd. A top-up foul behind the plate, but it won't stay in the air long enough to give Bench any sort of a play. It's just a foul strike on the butt attempt by Paul Blair.
Milt Wilcox, just as warming up, had 3 great innings against Pittsburgh in that 3rd game of a National League Championship playoff and was declared the winner. He's the one that's only 20, born in Hawaii.
The grunt was about that only 20. Now the 2-strike pitch to Blair. Buford leads first, but set by Nolan. The pitch, swing, and he's striking out. Blair goes down swinging, number 6, and that looks like a fine breaking pitch from up here. One out in the inning and out. Here's Drew Powell, who looked at a 3rd strike in the 1st inning and then hammered a home run over the barrier in the left field corner. Not at all unusual for Powell. He hit many home runs to left center to left field. It has been said that when he is hitting the ball well, he will hit to left field. Buford with 1 down is leading first base, and Nolan is ready to work to Boog Powell. The first pitch outside, ball 1 to Boog. Without a base runner, the Indians, or rather the Reds against Powell, will put on a 3-man overshift, 3 men between first and second base. With a runner, Buford at first base. Now shortstop Woodward is near the bag at second, but still on the third base side. And the 1-0 pitch to Powell. Inside the corner for the first base. Pitch was inside, and Powell got out of the way, and what a throw from Johnny Bench that almost got you.
Well, I was just about to say that you wanted to see Johnny Bench. You just saw it.
Wow. If that's the way Mr. Bench can throw, it would be kind of foolhardy, I think, to try and steal on him. That was a tremendous throw from a right on the mark at first base. Buford just got back. Ground ball hit first base way. Fine pick up by May, the first base, and throw to second for 1. Back to first. Holds up the double play. It goes from the first baseman to the shortstop, back to first base for the double play that ends the Oriole half of the 6th inning. 3-6-3 if you're scoring. And at the end of 5.5, Baltimore 3, Cincinnati 3.
What gets the team to the World Series? Performance. Performance that shows up game after game. In tough situations that make the difference between winning and losing. And it's like that in automobile racing, too. And the name of the performer that comes through race after race is STP Oil System. STP Oil System means championship performance for race cars. And for family cars, too, because STP works in all engines to cut the heat, friction, and wear that can put your car on the sidelines with expensive repairs. STP clings to vital engine parts, lubricates better than ordinary motor oil alone, helps keep your car running smoother, quieter, longer. That's the kind of championship performance you can appreciate every day. And now that winter's coming, you should remember that STP gives you the extra edge your car needs to start faster on cold mornings. So the first time you need oil, or the next time you change oil, have your service station add STP oil treatment. STP is the racer's edge. We pause 30 seconds for station identification.
KGW Portland. Saving money is a little like baseball. Coming out on top requires a winning combination. For savers, Equitable Savings has that combination. High earnings, including the 5 1/4% 90-day passbook savings account, plus an extra bonus, S&H Green Stamps. One stamp for every dollar saved in any Equitable Savings account, up to 1,000 stamps per deposit. Get your extra bonus now when you save at Equitable Savings.
Back in Cincinnati, Jim Simpson with Chuck Thompson. As we go now to the last of the sixth inning, and this 3-3 ball game of the first game of the 1970 World Series, and if you're just joining us, I'm sorry if you're just joining us because you have really missed something. The score is 3-3. The lead was taken in the first inning by Cincinnati when Nolan doubled off the wall, Johnny Bench singled in home. In the third inning, Cincinnati made it 3-0 on Nolan's walk and a 2-1 home run by Lee May. But then Baltimore went to work. Paul Blair became the first base runner, beating out a hit down the third baseline, and Bruce Powell followed with a 2-run homer in the fourth inning. In the fifth inning, Ellie Hendricks led off with a home run on the first pitch he saw to tie it at 3-3. And that's where we are right now. And here to start off the last of the sixth is Lee May, who has singled and hit a 2-run home run. Check. It'll be Lee May, Bernie Carbo, and Tommy Helms in that order, and Palmer first off into the right-hand swinging May is over the inside portion of the letters, and the strike is called. Hendricks pumps up the sign. Palmer's second offering to May. 2-0 inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Whereas Gary Nolan has yet to give up a walk and has struck out 6. Palmer is yet looking for that first strikeout. Long foul ball down the left field side, and I mean long. Way up in the, well, I guess you call it the cosmic level. I'm not certain of the terminology here in this ballpark, but there looks to be one mezzanine and a second mezzanine, the second they call the plaza, and that's where that foul ball came down. Palmer ready with a 1-2 pitch to Lee May. The big popper, they call him, and no wonder. Palmer throws, he's much too high. 2-2 now to May. Singled in the first inning and rammed a home run over the wall in the left field corner in the third. That gave Cincinnati at that time a 3-0 lead. A Powell home run in the fourth made it 3-2, and Hendricks' solo blast in the fifth tied at 3-3. We're now on the bottom of the sixth. The 2-2 to May. Swing ground ball, third base side. Brooks Robinson got it, throwing from foul ground toward first base. It is in time. And the golden glove artistry of Brooks Robinson was never more apparent than on that last play. A ground ball over the bag at third. Brooks got to it in foul ground. And it seemed he was throwing from about 3 or 4 steps in foul ground, bounced the throw to Powell, and the out call was forthcoming at first base, and one of the game's outstanding defensive plays turned in by Oriole third baseman Brooks Robinson. Well, that was the dandy. Now Bernie Carbo, he lined the Brooks at third in the first inning and drew a walk in the third inning. Left-handed batsman. Palmer's pitch, high, 4-1. A 1-0 pitch to Carbo, strike call over the outer portion around the knees. The ball on the strike to Bernie. You have to wonder, thinking about Bernie Carbo as the rookie, the 1-1 offering to Bernie, low with a curveball, 2-1. What his thoughts were on the way to the ballpark this morning. And I imagine he was very happy to get that first at-bat behind him in the first inning. The 2-1, high and away. Carbo now with a count of 3 balls, 1 strike to Jim Palmer, 1 out, nobody on. Bottom of the sixth inning, the Orioles 3 and Cincinnati 3. Capacity crowd of 51,531 in a beautiful day. 3-1 pitch. High foul ball going to be out of play off the third base side. Still the count, 3-2. Infield has cut a bit to the first base side against Carbo, but center fielder Blair toward the alley in left center pitch. Curveball outside and a walk. And that for Palmer will be his third walk of the ball game. A 1-out walk to Carbo, and that brings in Tommy Helms to it. Off to the third baseman and fly to the center fielder in 2 previous turns. And what a
play, you speak of defensive plays. What a play this fellow made on Dave Cash in the playoffs against the Pirates. Oh. The pitch to right, there goes the runner. The pitch is swung out, a line drive, base hit in the center field, play over the field. The ball is Carbo's around second, headed to third. And on the hit and run, with Carbo moving, Helms had a jammer that was inside on him and still got enough of it. So loop it through the middle of the center field for a solid base hit, and the Reds have runners on the corners, first and third with one away, and Woody Woodward the due batter. But it will be, instead of Woodward, Ty Klein. Klein is down in the on-deck circle, swinging a couple of bats. Helms is singled, sending Carbo to third. And we're going to get an announcement now on the pinch hitter, Ty Klein. Ty Klein in the regular season at 277, and in the playoff games, well, he wasn't up much. He was up twice, officially once. The first time in the first game, with the score tied 0-0, in the 10th inning, he led off with a triple and scored the winning run. And then in the third game, he came up as a pinch hitter and walked, and also scored. So he is 2 for 2 in the run department in playoff series. And now he is batting here in the last of the sixth. Cincinnati runners. Carbo at third base, Helms at first base, 1 out in the inning. We're in the last half of the sixth. Score tied, 3-3. Pinch hitter Klein, left-handed batsman against Palmer, waits. The set that missed the Klein. Too high, ball one. Down in the Oriole bullpen, Mo Grabowski, a right-hander, and Marcelino Lopez, a left-hander, are getting ready, and we're going to check that Cincinnati bullpen for you momentarily. Right now with a count of ball and no strikes for the pinch hitter Ty Klein. Palmer ready to go. The pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. A ball and a strike to Klein. That is Darrell Kenny, who will come in for defensive purposes. One of the men warming up, and the other man warming up, of course, is Milt Wilcox. There's been a history of Jerry Nolan of not completing games. And so it might be number one that Sparky Anderson will go for the big inning, and number two, he just automatically gets someone ready in the late game. Now the 1-1 offering to the pinch hitter Klein. Palmer deals fouled away out of play off the third base side. A ball and 2 strikes. That is the trademark of the Cincinnati Ball Club, however. The fact that pitchers have not completed too many games is certainly not a negative point. It is rather a positive point and a tribute to the outstanding bullpen of Cincinnati, so their starters can come out and go with everything they've got as long as they can and know that they've got plenty of help in the bullpen. Now the 1-2 to Ty Klein. Carbo third, Helms at first, 1 out. The set by Palmer. The pitch is on the way. A little high. 2-2 now. You hear that ooh from the crowd. It was that kind of a pitch. Just a little bit off the mark. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The count for the pinch hitter Klein, batting for Woodward here in the bottom of the sixth. The set by Palmer. Here comes the 2-2. Curveball, swinging a ground ball. It is going to be fair. Palmer waits for the hop, and now Hendricks makes the grab and tags the runner coming to the plate. It was a Baltimore chopper. It hit right in front of the plate and then went straight up in the air. Hendricks was powerless to do anything but wait for it. Carbo broke for the plate. Hendricks made the grab, fell on top of Carbo with a tag for the second out of the inning, and we have a beat from Cincinnati manager Sparky Anderson. The ball was swung on and hit right down in front of the plate in fair ground. It took a great big high hop. Hendricks could do nothing but wait for it. And after he caught the ball, he dropped down and made the tag of Carbo for the second out of the inning. Helms moved into second base. On with the fielder's choice is Ty Klein, the pinch hitter. There are now 2 outs, and Anderson continues his beat at home plate with a plate umpire Ken Burkhardt. Well, it could be for several reasons. Number one, Burkhardt had his back to the play and had to look over his right shoulder. According to a monitor that we have here for television, the tag was made, and the runner, Carbo, did not touch home plate. But then again, Sparky Anderson might be out to say that Burkhardt was in the way of the runner and blocking home plate, forcing Carbo to slide around him. In any case, the run does not count, and there's 2 outs. And they have just thrown some fouls on the field from the Cincinnati dugout. Here's a swing and a foul out of play off the bat of pitcher Gary Nolan. He is batting for himself. Well, the first beat of the 1970 series put up on a plate play by manager Sparky Anderson. But the out call came up from Ken Burkhardt, and it's still a 3-3 ball game with 2 outs, runners at first and second. And And the one-strike pitch is swung on and missed. 2 strikes now to Nolan. 0-2 to count the right-hand batting Nolan. Runners leading first and second base, 2 away. Pitch, high fly ball center field. In range of center fielder Paul Blair. Trotting toward the alley in right center. He's got it for the final out, and the Cincinnati threat dies. At the end of 6 innings of play, the score, Baltimore 3, Cincinnati 3.
You enjoy a lot of living, and you got a lot of good. I make you coming through. Your adventure starts tomorrow, and you know what you must do. I just living, coming through. When you ask me on the highway, the whole world slipping by. Rocking on a cherry This is Ella Fitzgerald coming through with Chrysler Plymouth. That new Chrysler comes through for all the living you do. And baby, that's a lot. Chrysler
A 1971 Chrysler Plymouth offers more kinds of new cars than anyone else in the business. Why not let a Chrysler or a Plymouth come through for you? Well, we cannot play down the importance of that play that occurred in the last of the 6 too much. It would have broken the tie, of course. Carbo was at third base, Tommy Helms on at first with 1 out. Ty Klein beat a ball into the dirt. Now, the best that we can explain it to you is this. Picture home plate. Ellie Hendricks, the catcher, was maybe a half a step in front of home plate. Ken Burkhart, the umpire, was following him to see whether or not the ball was fair or foul, so he was virtually on the foul line. Carbo was sweeping down the line and had to slide around in the foul side of the third base line and was tied out by Hendricks reaching around Burkhart. Our supposition is, because the replay on television showed that Carbo missed the plate, so our supposition is Clarky Anderson thought he had not, or that Burkhart actually interfered with the play. Well, here's Frank Robinson, and a long foul ball down the left field side is going to be up in the plaza level again, and the strike 1 to Frank Robinson. Just a long foul strike. Frank has fly to left and fly to right in 2 previous turns against Gary Nolan. There is a new shortstop in the game for the Cincinnati Redlegs. It's Darrell Taney. Taney now playing shortstop, replacing Woodruff for the Reds. The 1-strike pitch to Frank Robinson. Nolan rocks and throws. Low and away. 1 ball, 1 strike. The Reds, 3 runs, 5 hits. They have played errorless baseball. The Orioles, 3 runs, 4 hits. They have committed 2 errors as we start the top half of the 7th inning. Now the 1-1 offering to Frank Robinson. Low and outside, 2 balls and a strike. Any World Series is a great, great thrill for any ball player. This World Series is a particular thrill, of course, to Frank Robinson for his many great years as a member of the Cincinnati Reds. The 2-1 offering to Frank. Nolan kicks and throws. High pop-up. It's off the first base side of the infield. Lee May is calling for it, and the Reds' first baseman wraps it up for the first out of the inning. 1 gone. Frank Robinson on a pop-up to first baseman May. And now Brooks Robinson. He's faced Nolan twice this afternoon, both times rounding out to the third baseman, Tony Perez. The Reds infield are set up just about straight away to Brooks Robinson as Nolan brings the arm down with the first offering. Strike right at the knees. Nolan center fielder a bit toward the alley in left center, but not much, but well over toward the alley in right center, however, is Pete Rose. And now we see Perez moving over closer to the line to guard it down the third baseway. Pitch to Brooks. Long fly ball, fairly deep to left field. Back goes Carbo, back on the warning track. Right at the fence, he looks, it's gone. Brooks Robinson has homered to break the 3-3 tie. And Carbo played the ball as if he had a play every step of the way. Went right to the wall, and then was powerless to do any more than watch it sail over the barrier, and the home run bats of the Orioles now put Baltimore in front 4-3. Home run by Brooks Robinson, and Baltimore is on top for the first time today. And here is Elrod Hendricks, the left-hand hitting Oriole catcher. A ball 1 is low to Elrod. As Jim mentioned, this fellow is extremely tall and very, very slender for a catcher, and that occasions his nickname, Beast. Swing and another long drive deep in the right field corner if it stays fair, but it is a hooking foul ball. A foul ball. Plenty deep enough for the home run, but quite foul. Well, for National League fans, they know for a fact that the Cincinnati Reds are called a big red machine, but the fact is that Baltimore scored more runs than anybody else in the American League, 792, and more runs than Cincinnati with its 775, which was good for a third in the National League. Pitch to Elrod, swing and a miss, and the count now a ball and 2 strikes. And again, activity in the Cincinnati bullpen. That's Clay Carroll, one of the veterans, along with Granger and Gelder, of course. And that usually means trouble for whoever Cincinnati is playing. Carroll has been just magnificent in the Reds bullpen this year. Hendricks is taking a breather. When he swings and misses, it has a tendency to bother the right hand, where he had the hairline fracture of a finger, plus a little soreness in that right shoulder. So he just stepped out and took a good reset, I guess. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Hendricks for pitch. Swing and a miss, he's 29. Good breaking pitch right down at the knees. And Nolan now notches strikeout number 7. 2 out in the inning. Nobody on, and Dave Johnson headed for the plate. Orioles second baseman has topped the second and struck out in the 5th inning. Nolan's strikeout pitch has been a dandy today. After a leadoff home run to Hendricks in the 5th, he then struck out the side, Johnson, Belanger, and Palmer. The first pitch to Johnson, fast and low, ball 1. 2 out, a run in, a Brooks Robinson home run. Nolan ready once more, 1-0 to Dave Johnson. A good fastball caught the inside corner, but he's 1-1. Home run that broke the 3-3 tie is the second for Brooks Robinson in World Series. A ball is low, 2-1 now to Dave Johnson. In his very first at-bat in the 1966 World Series, Brooks Robinson homered. A count of 2 balls and strikes to Johnson. Nolan 6 and fires. Low, ball 3. 3-1 now. Gary has not given up a walk. He's gone to a couple of full counts. One to Hendricks in the 2nd inning. Another one to Johnson in the 5th. And he's got another, and he went full count to Buford in the 6th inning, and now he has a 3-1 count here to Dave Johnson. The pitch, low, ball 4, and here's the first free ticket given up by the Red starter this afternoon. A 2-out walk. Today Johnson brings in Mark Belanger, and he's been victimized by the hard-throwing Gary Nolan, both trips to the plate. A swinging strikeout in the 3rd and a looking strike in the 5th inning. So Belanger is 0 for 2. Making Nolan wait just a little bit. Johnson, the runner at first base. Lee May moves in to take the bag with a runner, and time called as manager Sparky Anderson heads for the mound, and as he headed for the mound, he also points to the right field corner, and that's the bullpen area for the Cincinnati Reds, and from out of the bullpen will come a new Cincinnati hurler, and Gary Nolan is being lifted right now. We are now in the top half of the 7th inning. Baltimore 4 and the Cincinnati Reds 3. It's Baltimore 4 runs, 5 hits, 2 errors. The Reds 3 runs, 5 hits, and no errors. A great hand for Gary Nolan as he leads, and we bring in Jim Simpson. And we pause 30 seconds for a station identification. Hold on a little bit. The ball was starting at the middle of the mid-second. At that middle of Cincinnati, Jim Simpson with Seth Thompson. We're in the 7th inning with 2 out, and Gary Nolan has departed after working 6 2/3 innings, giving up 4 earned runs, 3 of them on home runs, 5 hits. He struck out 8, and he has just walked a man, and that was all for Sparky Anderson. It's on to Clay Carroll. Carroll during the regular season, 1-9, lost 4. He's a right-hander. Earned run average of 2.60. Made a brief appearance for an inning and a third, spread over 2 games in the playoff series, and did not allow any runs. As we now go to Tony Kubat. Dave, I just know you're going to be doing some work for Major League Baseball. You bet this. We feel it's a very positive thing, Johnny, baseball, and for kids, that they can do a lot of good by playing baseball instead of doing other things. Let's cut things right now, Dave, and I'll talk to you a little bit later. right, Tony, and here is Mark Belanger facing Carroll and getting a ball one low and inside. Clay is a big, strong right-hander. 16 saves this year. He won 9, lost 4. The runner at first base, Dave Johnson. 2 out, a run in. Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3. Pitch to Belanger, foul ball on the screen behind the plate. 1 ball, 1 strike. Lee May holding with a base runner. Dave Johnson at first base. Against Belanger, the infield is about straight up, but center fielder Nolan is pretty well around toward the alley in right field. Cincinnati, as all other clubs, play Belanger to hit the ball to the opposite field. And the 1-1 pitch on the way to Mark Belanger. Here's a looping foul ball out of play on the first base side, a ball and 2 strikes. Again, to repeat ourselves, but the most prevalent comment about Baltimore and Cincinnati in the World Series of 1970, how evenly matched, how well balanced were these teams. And this game number 1 is proof positive of that point. The 1-2 to Belanger, curve in the dirt, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Clay Carroll, born in Alabama, now makes his home in Braden in Florida. And what a great job he's done in relief for the Reds this year. 2-2 to Belanger, foul ball over the screen and out of play. 2 out, runner at first base, Johnson. Carroll pitching in relief for the starter, Gary Nolan, who went 6 2/3 innings, 5 hits, a walk, 7 strikeouts, charged with 4 runs, and Johnson at first is also his responsibility. 2-2 to Belanger. High foul ball off the third base side, and it may be out of play. It is out of play. So the count rides along at 2 balls, 2 strikes. They are against McLaughlin in game number 2 from Riverfront Stadium tomorrow afternoon on NBC. Clay Carroll about ready to go. Here's his 2-2 offering to Belanger again with Johnson at first. Check swing line drive. It is a foul ball. Foul ball just over the head of the leaping first baseman May. Slicing foul. Belanger not swinging. He seemed to be trying to get the bat out of the way of the pitch, and the result was a line drive foul ball down the first base side, and the lights are on here in this beautiful Riverfront Stadium. It is a show place. Looking down at Johnny Bench. Johnny has not yet gone down to pump up a sign for him. Just pacing himself along with Clay. And the 2-2 to Belanger. Foul ball on the screen behind the plate. So Belanger hangs a little tough with a count, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Game number 1 got off with a rush, with the Cincinnati Redlegs scoring in 1 run in the very first inning. A ground ball base hit through the first base side out of the right field. Dave Johnson down to second base will hold there, and Belanger delivers with his first base hit of the 1970 series, a ground single through the first base side to right. And the batter will be pitcher Jim Palmer. Well, Palmer in the final playoff game against the Minnesota Twins helped himself with the bat considerably. Against starter Gary Nolan, he grounded to second base in the 3rd inning and struck out in the 5th inning. Tall, lean, right-handed batsman. And some years ago, baseball scouts were just not too sure which way this young fellow should go. Should he be an outfielder or a pitcher? The pitch to Palmer. Here's a foul out of play behind the plate. Strike 1. Carroll in relief of the starter Gary Nolan delivers. Just off the corner, and the count now 1 ball and 1 strike. Other than 4 home runs in this afternoon's game number 1, 3 by the Orioles, Powell, Hendrickson, Brooks Robinson, and Lee May of the Reds. The series record for 1 game by 2 teams is 6, and it happened twice. Both times the Yankees were involved. 2-1 pitch. A pitch to call to Palmer. Fine breaking ball from Clay Carroll. In October the 1st of 1932, the Yankees hit 4, the Cubs 2. In October the 4th of 1953, the Yankees hit 4, and the Dodgers hit 2. The 1-2 pitch to the waiting Jim Palmer. Drive, 3 ball, right on the outside corner for these, and that's it. At the end of 6 1/2 innings of play, it's now Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3.
The number guy in the big league named Frank Baker
Well, they called him a home run baker. But the most home runs he ever hit was Carl. It's kind of like calling the flip ball look you get the most hairdressing natural. I mean, how natural can your hair look when it's all loaded down with grease? That's why you like bi-color. It holds your hair in place without any grease. So if you want to look good naturally, don't kid yourself. Use bi-color. That's bi-color. It's greaseless.
This is Kurt Gowdy. You know when a pitcher's getting everyone out, they say he has his good stuff. That's what I like about Phillips 66. At the performance shop, they've always got their good stuff. Take their premium gasoline, Phillips Light Fuel. Not only has it got all the power you need, but its special detergent action keeps your engine running clean. Phillips Light Fuel. Get it at the performance shop, Phillips 66. At Phillips 66, it's performance that counts.
With Chuck Johnson, this is Jim Simpson back in Cincinnati. We go to the last of the seventh inning, the top of the Cincinnati batting order, and Pete Rose, Bobby Nolan, and Tony Perez. The Reds trail by a run, 4-3. Baltimore this year set an American League record in winning 40 ball games by 1 run. They lost only 15, and we might also point out that today Baltimore has already scored with 4 runs, more than Pittsburgh managed in the entire National League Championship. Last of the seventh, Pete Rose, here's Chet Thompson. And the explosive Reds will start with the top of the batting order, Pete Rose against Jim Palmer, and the first pitch to Rose, strike is called. Pete went out on a bounce to the short in the first inning, again in the second inning, and reached in the fifth inning on catcher's interference charged to Elrod Hendricks. The one strike pitch to Rose, the ground ball foul just outside of third. 2 strikes now to Rose. He will be followed by Bob Nolan and then Tony Perez. Rose has averaged 211 hits over the last 3 seasons. The 2-strike offering to Rose missed outside, 1 and 2. The Oriole infield about straight up to left-hand hitting Rose. The center fielder Blair is favoring the alley toward left center. The pitch coming. Swinging a high fly ball out into center field, ranging over center fielder Paul Blair. He's calling for it now, and Blair makes the catch to retire Rose. 1 gone in the last half of the 7th inning. And now Bobby Nolan. He doubled down the alley in right center field in the first inning and scored the Reds' first run. He walked in the third, stole second base, and scored run number 2 when Lee May powered a 2-run home run. In the fifth inning, Nolan went out on a fly ball to the center fielder Blair. And now Blair, well over in the alley in right center against Nolan. Palmer throws, swing and a miss, strike 1. Buford is way over toward the alley in left center field. The pitch coming down to Nolan, a foul ball out of play. Good fastball from Palmer. Didn't quite get around quickly enough. 2 strikes to count the center fielder Bob Nolan. And boy, can he fly. And we note that he uses a 2-tone bat. Palmer's 2-strike offering. Wait a minute. It's a check swing ball, apparently. Plate umpire Burkhardt has ruled that it was a ball. Weaver comes out now. And he is asking Burkhardt to check with the third base umpire. And the third base umpire, Bob Stewart, said, no, he didn't get around. It is a ball. And so Mr. Weaver is back in the dugout. A check swing and a ball outside. A ball and 2 strikes. The count to... Left-handed Jim Merritt is throwing down in the Cincinnati bullpen. Palmer delivers line drive out of the alley left center field. Buford coming over to the glove side. Buford is there and makes the catch to retire Nolan. Left-hand hitting Nolan is retired in a looping line drive toward the alley in left center, captured by left fielder Don Buford. 2 away. And now here is Tony Perez. Fly to right in the first. Again in the third. Skies to the center fielder in the 5th inning. The Orioles leading 4-3. The pitch is high to Perez. Ball 1. Palmer right back. Right over the outside corner to the looking Tony Perez. And the 1-1. Just a bit high. 2-1 now. Played as a dead full hitter. The infield way around to the third base side. Pitch coming down to Tony, low and outside now. And the count rides up at 3 balls and 1 strike. Second baseman Dave Johnson well around toward the bag. Center fielder Blair off toward the alley and left center. Deep straightaway and left to Buford. Palmer into the motion. A 3-1 to Perez. He walks in, ball 4, low and outside. Walk number 4, issued by Jim Palmer. A 2-out walk to Perez, and that brings in Johnny Bench. Time is called by catcher Hendricks of the Orioles. He goes to the mound to talk to Jim Palmer. Meantime, down in the Oriole bullpen, the left-handed Pete Rickard is getting ready, along with the right-handed Dick Hall. In the Cincinnati bullpen, the southpaw Jim Merritt. Bench had 21 game-winning runs batted in 1970. This afternoon, he singled and knocked in the first run. Pitch, foul to the screen, strike 1. In the third, he popped to second. In the fifth, he fouled out to the catcher. 1 strike to count to Bench. Powell is holding with a base runner, Perez at first. And the Orioles play Bench just about the way they had played Perez a moment ago. The 1 strike pitch on the way. In the dirt, wild pitch, right through to the screen. Running it down is Elrod Hendricks. Down to second and holding out is Perez. It is a wild pitch. Starts to Jim Palmer. And now the Reds with 2 down have the tying run in scoring position. Halfway around with a count of a ball and a strike to the number 1 man, Johnny Bench. I'm sure you have read stories and the speculation that this man, Bench, might become the first $200,000 player in baseball to pitch outside. 2-1 now to Bench. Lee May in the on-deck circle. Palmer battling to hold a 1-run lead. It's Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3. Here in the bottom of the 7th, 2 out, and Perez at second. The 2-1 pitch. Ain't a foul to the screen. What a cut from Johnny Bench. 2-2. 2 down. A walk to Perez and a Palmer wild pitch, heading to second base. And the count leveled at 2-2 to one of the greats and one of the young greats in baseball, Johnny Bench. Time requested by Palmer. He wants another baseball. Right-handed Hall, left-handed Rickard in the Oriole bullpen. The southpaw Merritt in the Cincinnati bullpen. And now the 2-2 offering to Johnny Bench. Palmer throws curve ground foul toward the Oriole dugout, which is on the third base side here at Riverfront Stadium. To say that game number 1 has lived up to its pre-game billing could be the understatement of the afternoon. The 2-2 pitch to Bench. Palmer throws, swinging a foul to the screen, and the count continues at 2-2. And this is what the game is all about, that never-ending battle between the pitcher and the batter. And you have 2 of the best in Bench, the hitter, Palmer, the pitcher. 2 out, Perez at second, ready to go. Palmer looking to Hendricks for the sign. The brief stretch, the set. The 2-2 to Bench. Ground ball, third baseman Brooks Robinson backs, and he's got it. A throw on to first baseman Howard and plenty of time, and Bench, and the Reds have been retired. And at the end of 7 complete, it's Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3.
The following is dedicated to all you folks out there who have corrected Winston's grammar.
Good grammar or good taste. Good grammar or good taste. Pardon my grammar, but
Winston may not say it right, but they sure know how to make it right.
As we go to the top of the 8th inning, the set score reads Baltimore 4 runs on 6 hits, 2 errors, Cincinnati 3 runs, 5 hits, and no errors. Members of the Retail Clerks Union vote by secret ballot to approve agreements with employers. As union members, they have a voice in determining their conditions of employment. To every adult American, the right to vote is valuable because when you cast your secret ballot, you have a voice in determining the quality of the government of your country. Be sure to vote November 3rd. This message from the Retail Store Employees Union in your community. Started by the Retail Clerks International Association, Washington, D.C., 20006. Well, there's been one tremendous play, and I'm not speaking of the home run by Brooks Robinson that put Baltimore in front 4-3, but rather the tag on Bernie Carbo at home plate, and the ball hit right in front of home plate. The tag put on by Ellie Hendricks. And as we said, Hendricks was there, umpire Ken Burkhart was there, and Carbo slid around him and was tagged out, said Burkhart. We have checked again that instant replay shown on television. It appears that Carbo missed the plate. And that Ken Burkhardt, the umpire, was exactly right. And we have checked with the press box. We have checked with Marty Anderson. And his argument, Chuck Thompson, was not that there was any interference at all, but simply that Carbo was safe. Well, here we go to the top half of the eighth inning. And Clay Carroll, pitching in relief of Gary Nolan, will face Don Buford. He delivers a strike at the knees. Buford fouled to the catcher, fly to the right fielder, and singled in the sixth inning, and then was rubbed out on a nifty red leg double play. The one strike pitch is a curve in, and a strike two is called. Carroll performing as he has all year long for the Red Legs in relief of starter Gary Nolan. The two-strike offering to Buford, curve being foul ball behind the plate, as Buford just did get a piece of it. Buford, Blair, and Boog Powell, the two batters against right-handed Clay Carroll, here on the top of the eighth. And a tense and a taut struggle. The wide and the two-strike pitch. High fly ball, center field away, waiting out there, Bobby Tolan. He's coming up on the ball now. The left fielder Carbo cuts over in front of him, and Carbo makes the catch. So Buford is retired, and a towering fly ball toward the alley in left center, and Carbo raced over in front of Tolan and made the grab. One gone in the Oriole half of the eighth inning, and here is Paul Blair. Off to the shortstop in the first, reached on a scratch hit, an infield single in the fourth inning. Came in when Powell followed with a home run. Blair struck out against Nolan in the sixth. Carroll ready to go. Swinging a ground ball hit right at third baseman Perez. He's got it. The throw to first baseman May, and we have two down. Blair out on a stopper to third baseman Perez. About an out, Bruce Powell, who looked at a third strike, delivered with a two-run home run in the Orioles fourth inning, and then hit into a double play in the sixth inning. As Jim Simpson pointed out earlier, and it is just absolutely true, that Powell, when hitting, makes things very easy for Baltimore. And in truth, the Orioles, for the most part, go as Powell goes. A ball low and outside to Boog. That is not to say that if Powell is not hitting, they do not win, but it is a tremendously more difficult thing to do. One ball, no strikes to Boog Powell. Carroll ready, fires. Inside, right along the letters, and a ball two. Carroll's blowing away and then high and tight, moving the ball around on the man with tremendous power, with the Orioles leading Cincinnati 4-3 here on the top of the eighth with two out and none on. Pitch to Boog, curve, swing and a miss. 2-1 the count to Boog Powell, and he didn't get very close to that curveball. The Orioles 4 runs, 6 hits, 2 errors. Cincinnati 3 runs, 5 hits and no errors, 2 out and none on here on the top of the eighth. Game 1. Carroll ready with a 2-1 to Powell. Inside and low with a fastball. 3 balls and a strike. Cincinnati broke on top with a single run in the first inning, added 2 more on the Lee May home run in the third, and led 3-0. The Orioles battled back with 2 in the fourth and 1 in the fifth. High pitch to Powell is a strike 2 call over the inside portion right along the letters. And Carroll continues to do a fine job of moving the ball around on Powell, up and down, in and out. And now he has run out the string with a count 3-2. Here's his pitch. Curve grounds Powell down the first base side. Well, the first time Powell batted this afternoon with nobody on, they instituted a 3-man overshift between first and second. Such is not the case now. Darrell Taney at shortstop is almost directly behind the bag at second, still a bit on the left field at third base side. 3-2 to Powell. Ball 4, high and tight. So a walk by Clay Carroll, and that's the first free ticket he's issued. 2 out. Father of Powell reaching first and coming to the plate now is Frank Robinson. Hitless in 3 turns this afternoon. Has fly to left, fly to right, and pops to the first baseman, Lee May. Gary Nolan went the first 6 2/3 innings this afternoon, allowed 5 hits, walked the batter, struck out 7, and charged with 4 runs. Pitch to Frank. Strike over the outside portion, just above the knee. Strike offering to Frank Robinson. Curve, mighty swing and a miss. Carroll got right up on top of a good curveball, and Frank Robinson just couldn't find it. 0-2 the count to Baltimore's right fielder. Billy Hunter coaching third base way for Baltimore, George Stoller. and the first base coaching box. They're not holding with Powell at first base. 2 strike pitch to Frank. Curveball, swing, and a foul tip out of the middle of the catcher bench, and Frank is still alive, and he did not get a whole lot of that curveball. 0-2 to Frank Robinson. May playing well off the bag at first base. Was sent by Carroll the pitch. Curved him in the dirt. 1-2. He's given Frank just a steady diet of breaking pitches. Shortstop Cheney is very, very deep and around toward the hole off the third base side against Frank Robinson. Clay Carroll throws. Curve, foul ball in the dirt behind the plate. More correctly, on the artificial turf behind the plate. I don't know what I expected to see in looking at a baseball game for the first time played on this artificial turf, but it looks like just another fine baseball game. Nothing at all unusual has happened so far. The 1-2 pitch. Strike 3 call to Frank Robinson. Frank is called out on strike at the end of 7.5 innings of play. Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3.
Every World Series game has a lot of tradition behind it. All the great teams have played in the series. And every year, more great names join those of the past. Here's something else that's got tradition going for it. STP Oil Treatment. STP has given drivers the edge on great race circuits all over the world, and it doesn't stop there. Millions and millions of motorists rely on STP Oil Treatment every day to keep their family cars running smoother, quieter, and longer. STP clings to vital engine parts, lubricates better than motor oil alone ever could, helps eliminate damaging friction and wear. On the track, that can give you the winning edge. On the highway, it can mean a lot longer life for your engine. And with winter coming up, you need STP protection even more, because STP gives you that extra lubrication you need to help get smooth, fast starts on cold mornings. So get that STP tradition working for you. Have your service station add a can of STP oil treatment to your car's engine and run racer sharp. Last of the 8th inning, Cincinnati will send up Lee May, who has singled and hit a 2-run homer, and has been thrown out on one fantastic play by Brooks Robinson at third base. Then Bernie Carbo, who has been involved in the real rhubarb of the day, was he out or safe at home in the 6th inning, which at that time would have been the go-ahead run. And then Tommy Helms is 1 for 3. For the last of the 8th, 4-3, Cincinnati trails Baltimore, again Chuck Humphrey. The first pitch to Lee May is inside low, ball 1. May with a single in the first, a 2-run home run in the third, and a brilliant defensive play by Brooks Robinson got him in the 6th inning. Now the 1-0 pitch to May. Palmer throws up tight inside, ball 2. 2-0 now. He was low and inside with the first offering and high and inside with the second. In the Baltimore bullpen, for Baltimore fans, a very familiar sight. The 2-0 to May. Ground ball hit glove side of the shortstop Belanger. He's there. He's got it. The throw on to Powell at first. 1 gone. Lee May retired and a bouncer to short. The familiar side in the Baltimore bullpen is referred to as number 1 and number 2. And that means left-handed Pete Rickert and the right-handed Eddie Watt. They have been all year long, for manager Earl Weaver, his late relief men. And now here is Bernie Carbo. Line to Brooks Robinson in the 1st inning, walked in the 3rd, and walked again in the 6th inning. Pitch coming down to Carbo, a swing and a foul ball to the screen. Strike 1. Carbo led the Reds in walks with 94. As a matter of fact, he led 2 minor leagues in that same department, base on ball. 1 strike to left-hand hitting Bernie Carbo. Palmer rocks and throws. Strike 2 called. Good fastball, knee-high over the outer portion. 0-2. Palmer to the move, the 2-strike pitch, curved to the line drive, caught by Brooks Robinson at third for the 2nd out of the inning. A slicing soft liner to the glove side. Third baseman Robinson, he grabbed it for out number 2 in the bottom of the 8th inning. And here now comes Tommy Helms, who has popped to third and flied to center and singled in the 6th inning. Don Gullett, a left-hander throwing in the bullpen. The pitch to Helms. Foul ball going to be out of play behind the plate. Strike 1, and infielder Dave Concepcion is also warning. Darrell
Merrill Cheney is the on-deck hitter. 1 strike to count to Tommy Helms. Time requested by Helms just as Palmer was in the middle of the windup and ready to deliver. But Tommy felt that Palmer was working a little too rapidly for it. And that's the only way he could slow him down. The 1 strike pitch. High fly ball, deep left center. Buford converging, Blair coming over, and it'll be Blair all the way, making the catch for the final out of the inning, deep in the alley in left center field. 3 up and 3 down at the end of 8. It's Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3.
The retail store employees unions are well known for their achievements on behalf of more than 600,000 members. Their union agreements with employers provide for good wages, liberal hospitalization, and retirement plans. They vote on their union agreements by secret ballot. The retail clerk unions urge all adult Americans to cast their secret ballot on November 3rd. This message from the Retail Store Employees Union in your community. Chartered by the Retail Clerks International Association, Washington, D.C., 20006.
Hey, Bud, if you want to get in on a terrific deal, listen to this. You know the Gillette Techmatic razor? The razor that gets the nubs? Well, here's the deal. Right now, when you buy the Gillette Techmatic razor, America's top-selling razor, you get a can of Gillette Foamy Shave Cream with lemon lime, free. You get that? Foamy with lemon lime, free. So what are you waiting for? Get the Gillette Techmatic razor now.
9th inning, 4-3 the score. Baltimore about to bat, and we'll send up Brooks Robinson. And now back here, let us go down to the field and Tony Kubek.
Mr. Pretty good play by this fellow. I tell you, it's as good a play at third base as I've ever seen. I didn't believe he could make it. It was a very key play because it's followed by 2 hits.
Quite an exciting first game of the World Series.
It's a terrific game. These beautifully matched teams, and it's showing up just that way.
Mr. Commissioner, thank you so much. Let's go back upstairs.
Okay, Tony.
Here's Brooks Robinson with a swing and a line drive foul ball into the bullpen area down the left field side. Strike 1 to Brooks Robinson. Grounded to third twice in the 2nd inning and the 4th inning and broke a 3-3 tie with a 1-out solo home run in the 7th inning. His home run the difference in the game at the moment. The 1-strike pitch. Blown away and a count, a ball, and a strike. This is the first look Brooks Robinson has had at the Redlegs' outstanding reliever Clay Carroll. The 1-1 to Brooks. Inside and high, ball 2, 2-1 now. In the 9th inning, Brooks Robinson, Elrod Hendricks, Dave Johnson are the 2 batters against Clay Carroll. The 2-1 offering to Brooks. Strike called as Carroll found the range in the outside corner of the knees. 2-2. Strike 3 call. Brooks Robinson is out looking at a blazing fastball, knee-high over the outside corner, and that'll be 3 strikeouts now for Clay Carroll, and they have all been looking third strike. Each one a called third strike. 1 out, nobody on. Elrod Hendricks. Fouled out to the first baseman in the 2nd inning. Hit a solo home run to give Baltimore a 3-3 tie in the 5th. Struck out in the 7th. Lean, rangy, left-handed batsman. Carroll works. Curve. Strike call. Good looking stuff from Clay Carroll. And the 1-strike offering. Inside. 1 ball, 1 strike. As we mentioned earlier, Boog Powell hung the nickname on this tall, skinny Baltimore catcher. Calls him Beef. Strike 2 called right at the knees. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and Mr. Carroll is full of strikes. Mark Belanger greeted him with an infield hit. Since that time, the only man to reach was a walk to Boog Powell pitch. Curveball in the dirt in front of the plate. And that'll even the count now, 2-2. It is Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3. 1 out, nobody on. Top of the 9th inning. At Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. The 2-2 pitch to Hendricks. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Strikeout number 4 for reliever Clay Carroll. Well, he is doing his job and then some, holding the Orioles right where they are in hopes that his teammates can get caught up. And all Cincinnati needs is a swing of the bat. They're trailing by 1 run. Baltimore this year has the Orioles won 40 one-run ball games and lost only 15. The pitch to Johnson is a strike call. An American League record for Baltimore, those 40 one-run victories. Curve is in the dirt, bouncing by to the screen. 1 ball and 1 strike. The bullpens are absolutely quiet. And Riverfront Stadium is also a little on the quiet side. 2 out, nobody on, top of the 9th.
It'll come alive on the bottom. A ball 2 is high and outside to Johnson. 2-1 now. The new batter in the bottom of the ninth to start it for Cincinnati is Darrell Cheney. The pitch. Here's a high foul ball down the first base side out of play. 2-2 to Baltimore, second baseman Dave Johnson. He has popped to second, struck out, and walked. 51,531 paid, and a beautiful afternoon in Cincinnati. Now the 2-2 pitch. Carroll rocks over the rubber and throws. A looping line drive base hit toward the alley in right center field. Going over to cut it off a steep road. Johnson is around first, holding on. Now the run for full going to second base. Johnson dives, and he is safe at second base. Johnson watching the base hit in the alley in right center, and it was center fielder Nolan that came over to cut it off. Johnson kind of tried to con Nolan just a little bit, cruising around first, and then suddenly he opened up, and Nolan had to hurry up, get set, and throw, and his throw was off target at second base, and Johnson has legged a single into a double. The batter now is Mark Belanger, and the intentional pass is being issued to Belanger. A double by Johnson with 2 down, and now an intentional walk to Mark Belanger, and that will bring up Baltimore pitcher Jim Palmer. That is to say, he is the due batter. 3 balls, no strikes now. We're going to get ball 4. And there it is. Belanger reaches with a walk. Charge to Carroll, his second. And Jim Palmer out of the Orioles dugout. Palmer, a 20-game winner this year for the first time in his career. And he, like the Cincinnati starter, had many physical problems. Palmer at the plate is 0 for 3. A bounce out to second and 2 strikeouts. Carroll ready to go. And the Reds' right-hander fires, swing and a miss, strike 1. Base runners, Dave Johnson at second, Belanger at first. 2 away, top of the ninth inning. Baltimore 4 to 3. Carroll sets at the belt. The right-hander delivers, swinging a high fly ball right field way. Up on the ball, the right fielder rolls. Back to second baseman, first baseman. Rose, the right fielder, calls them both off and makes the catch. So the Orioles do not score at the end of 8 1/2 innings of play. It's Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3.
What do you look for in your station wagon?
Beauty, smart
Look for roominess, visibility,
well, safety for my kids.
convenience, engineering, practical options, and accessories. Chrysler Corporation wagons give you all of them. A 1971 Dodge Coronet wagon or new Plymouth Satellite wagon offer a unique combination of features. Unibody construction, torsion air suspension, 4x8-foot load space, storage compartments in the wheel well. Beautiful enough to take you out on Saturday night. Wagons with an optional roof air deflector to keep the road dust off the rear window.
3-seat wagons with a new standard tailgate auto lock. You control the locking and unlocking from your driver's seat.
A 2-way door gate that opens out for passengers.
Even with the rear window up?
Or down for easy package loading.
Extra care and engineering, extra value, extra worth. New, the 1971 wagons from Chrysler Corporation. Dodge, Plymouth, and Chrysler.
Chrysler Corporation cars. Chrysler Corporation cars.
We pause 30 seconds for station identification.
KGW Portland. Whether you're rooting for the Reds or the Orioles, you'll end up on top at Equitable Savings. Equitable Savings offers top earnings, including the 5 1/4% 90-day passbook savings account, plus an extra bonus, S&H green stamps. 1 stamp for every dollar saved in any Equitable Savings account. Up to 1,000 stamps per deposit. Get your extra bonus now at Equitable Savings during their 80th anniversary.
Here we go to the bottom of the ninth inning, and batting for Darrell Cheney is the switch-hitting Jimmy Stewart. A swing and a miss, strike 1. Right back a ball that's high and outside, and the count is now even to Stewart at 1 ball, 1 strike. Last half of the ninth inning. Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3. Game number 1 of the 1970 World Series, and it has been just what everybody hoped it could be. The 1-1. A strike 2 call outside corner of the letters. Right back, Palmer delivers high and away to Stewart, and the count now 2 balls, 2 strikes. In the on-deck circle for Cincinnati now is Angel Bravo. The bat for Clay Carroll, the 2-2 pitch. A foul ball out of play behind the plate. Stewart, a 267 hitter on the year. The 2-2 pitch coming to the left-handed swinger. A swing and a miss. He struck him out. Palmer gets his first strikeout of the ball game for the first out in the ninth inning. And now Angel Bravo, hitting 277 in 65 games this year without a home run. Angel Bravo to bat for Clay Carroll. And in the playoffs against the Pirates, he made one appearance without a base hit. Angel Bravo, left-handed swinger. One out in the bottom of the ninth. And behind Bravo comes Mr. Rose. Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3. Bottom of the ninth, game number 1. Palmer looking down to Elrod Hendricks to the sign. Bravo taking a little time getting comfortable. Now the little left-handed swinger is ready to go. Palmer works the first pitch. Swing and a miss, strike one. A good breaking ball from Jim Palmer. Baltimore this year established an American League record with 40 one-run victories. The pitch is too high to Bravo. 1 ball, 1 strike. And that's what they've got here with 1 out and nobody on in the bottom of the ninth inning. Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3, and now Bravo sees the need to go to the dugout and exchange bats. The count, a ball and a strike to Angel Bravo, batting for Clay Carroll with 1 out in the bottom of the ninth. Baltimore 4-3. And didn't take Angel very long to get back up there again. He's ready. They plan to hit the ball to left field. The pitch. Strike 2 call, a blazing fastball over the outside portion of the letters. A ball and 2 strikes to Bravo. Center fielder player shallow up in the alley in left center field. Palmer works again. The pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Back-to-back strikeouts for Palmer in the bottom of the ninth inning. 2 away now. And headed for the plate comes Pete Rose. And if ever there has been a better hustler in the game of baseball than Pete Rose, I wish I had seen him play. Rose has twice grounded to short, reached on catcher's interference, has flied to the center fielder. Blair, center fielder toward the alley in left center. Palmer's pitch to Rose is high, and out of the middle catcher Elrod Hendricks. Ball 1. Infield is just a little bit to the first base side against the switch-hitting Rose, who was a left-handed batter against Palmer. A 1-0 pitch. High again, ball 2, 2-0. 2 out, nobody on. Palmer an out away from win number 1 of the 1970 series, and he couldn't have picked a tougher out than Pete Rose. Rickert, the left-hander, Watt, the right-hander, ready in the Baltimore bullpen. Rose with a count, 2 balls, no strikes, waiting. Palmer winds and throws. High, ball 3. And Riverfront Stadium begins to enliven, come to life considerably here now. The Cincinnati fans have seen Rose perform his miracles before. Here's a ball 4 outside, and Rose has reached. The tying run goes to first base as Palmer has given up walk number 5, and out of the bullpen now comes, out of the Orioles dugout now, comes manager Earl Weaver, and he may want his left-hander, Pete Rickert, and that is exactly the story. Weaver has already signed to the bullpen. Palmer, with a walk to Rose, has pitched himself out of the ball game in the bottom of the ninth, and Pete Rickert will enter, and so will Jim Simpson.
Chuck, I just want to put out one thing. Earl Weaver has gone with percentages in bringing in the left-hander Pete Rickert to go against the left-hander Bobby Tolan. But I think that many Cincinnati fans and National League fans know that Bobby Tolan hits left-handers better than he does right-handers, despite the fact that Tolan is a left-handed batter. And Tolan in the playoff series, of course, was the clutch man in the second game, providing all 3 runs. But Palmer, of course, has gone after working 8 2/3 innings. He struck out the first 2 men he faced in the ninth inning, but then gave up a walk on 4 pitches to Rose with Tolan on deck. Palmer, working those 8 2/3 innings, gave up a total of 3 runs on 5 hits. He walked 5, including the man he just walked, and struck out 2. He is responsible, of course, cannot lose the game, responsible for Pete Rose at first base. Now, Rose is a great base runner, but has stolen only 12 bases all year. The question is, how will Sparky Anderson play this one? Will he try to send him down? Or with the great speed of Bobby Tolan, play hit and run? Or will he allow Tolan, who hit 16 home runs during the regular season, swing away? 2 outs in the ninth inning, 4-3 to score. Cincinnati scored first when Tolan doubled off the wall. Lee May followed Johnny Hutchins' run-scoring single, and then they both remained on base. May later hit a 2-run homer. After
runners in the third, scoring Nolan ahead of him. So Nolan has scored 2 of the 3 runs. And Harry is up trying to drive in the tying run. And here's Chuck. Rickard is ready to go. The left-handed throw, a soft line drive toward the shortstop, Belanger. He's got it, and the ball game is over. Rickard on one pitch got Bobby Tolan on a handle hit, soft line drive to the shortstop. Mark Belanger for the final out of the 9th inning, and the Baltimore Orioles have won the first game of the 1970 World Series. The final score is Baltimore 4, Cincinnati 3.